Along with the thousands of seals that Ji-Yu's hands developed, the sound of Buddhist chanting that seemed like the sound of nature abruptly resounded out in the heavens and the earth. And then a Buddha appeared in every single seal. All of them had 3 heads and 6 arms, with a vertical eye between their brows, and they emanated a brilliant glow. Buddhist chanting, Buddhas taking form. The hearts of everyone in the surroundings of the combat ring trembled when they saw this scene, and they felt a terrifying aura that was boundless, magnificent, awe-inspiring, and devastating. This fellow's Buddhist sect divine ability is marvelous. It actually possesses such a grand aura, and even I can't help but want to have a match with him. Young Master Zhou's slanted brows raised up as a trace of excitement flashed past his eyes and battle intent suffused them. Strange. Along with the Buddhist sect being buried in the annals of history, Buddhist sect cultivation techniques have very rarely appeared in the world. I originally thought that he'd only cultivated an ordinary cultivation technique, yet now it would seem like it isn't inferior to some top Dao grade martial techniques. And Xianyu muttered to himself, "That kid Chun, she is going to be defeated now." Su Chan's brows knit together. He was still waiting to charge up onto the combat ring and fiercely trample on Chan Shi, yet Ji-Yu had beat him to it, causing him to be unable to avoid from feeling slightly regretful. "You must resist it." Yiqing silently clenched her fists tightly, and her starry eyes stared unblinkingly at Chan Shi. "If I have the chance, I want to fight Ji-Yu and experience exactly how formidable this Buddhist sect divine ability is." Zhen Liuqing's eyes were like mist as her clothes fluttered and battle intent gushed out from her. Fa! On the combat ring, Ji-Yu let out a vast and obscure sound with true essence. Then the myriad of seals abruptly stopped before combining into an enormous palm that was like glass, and it burned with golden flames and emitted bright holy light. Dragolians roared and Buddhas glared angrily within it, and it emitted a boundlessly awe-inspiring, terrifying aura. Bang! Ji-Yu launched his second attack. This palm was gigantic and powerful, causing the sky to be instantly crushed into powder like papier-mâché, and it formed into a terrifying crack of void in space. "It's impolite not to reciprocate, so you should receive a strike of mine first." Chan Shi's figure flickered as he moved about in the sky, and Dao insight surged violently on the talisman armament in his hand as he executed the water flame sword Dao formed from the mix of water and flame. It directly sliced into the palm and swiftly struck through, and the peerlessly ghastly sword Qi tore through the sky and condensed an enormous mark of the sword in space. It looked as if the entire combat ring's space had been slashed into 2, and it was a mighty counterattack. Bang! The enormous palm that was like glass was slashed into 2. The Dragolians within it shattered, the Buddhas within it violently killed, and it completely transformed into shattered pieces of light that scattered into the surroundings. The might of a single strike was so terrifying. The people present were instantly shocked speechless. They were still bitterly pondering how Chan Shi should resist. Yet Chan Shi used an extremely formidable and direct sword strike to directly destroy the dangerous situation, and this mighty counterattack caused them to almost not dare believe their own eyes. Water and fire becoming compatible with each other, 2 extremes alternating with each other. Amazing! He has actually comprehended the Ken sword of water and Li sword of fire of the myriad convergence sword scripture to such an extent. This kid's cultivation in the martial Dao can't be looked down upon. Young Master Zhou was suddenly moved, and he couldn't help but rub his hands and praise Chan Shi. Actually, it wasn't just young Master Zhou. The others like Xianyu, Wang Daoshu, Su Chan, Yiqing, Zhen Liuqing, and the others had perceived the terrifying sword insight contained within this sword strike of Chan Shi's, and waves of ripples arose in their hearts, causing them to be unable to control their feelings. At this moment, Ji-Yu didn't have the time to sigh emotionally as he was facing the threat of Chan Shi's terrifying sword move head-on. Not to mention sighing with emotion, he didn't even have the time to be distracted. At the critical moment, his eyes narrowed as his legs strode back, and then his hands made a clenching gesture, causing Buddha energy that was vast like the tide to condense into the image of an enormous Dragolian. The Dragolian's dragon whiskers fluttered about, its eyes like lanterns, and as if opened its mouth to roar, peerless holy light spun out intensely to form numerous thick vortexes that took the shape of funnels. Dragolian's rebirth, Viduraja's rage. Rumble. In the next moment, the water-flame sword tore through the sky as it slashed towards him, and those numerous vortexes were torn apart and shattered with a bang. When the Dragolian image formed from golden holy light encountered this attack, its entire body instantly fluctuated intensely and was on the verge of shattering, causing it to become dim and lusterless, and it didn't reveal the slightest bit of intelligence any longer. Want to defeat me with a mere sword move? Perish. At this moment, Jiyu finally understood that he'd underestimated Xianxia's strength, and besides feeling shocked in his heart, the Buddha energy in his entire body was instantly mobilized completely. The Dragolian image radiated vitality once more, and its body that was enormous like a mountain even grew a layer of golden scales that were suffused with a metallic sheen. Bang! The Dragolian image stood in the sky as it clawed down, causing the sword move to be destroyed instantly. However, what exceeded Jiyu's expectations was that after the sword move was shattered, it actually transformed into bits of sword light that sliced the Dragolian's body fiercely, causing an enormous counterforce to affect him. Even with his powerful body, he still felt a wave of pain and numbness. Luckily, the sword lights weren't boundless and were quickly exhausted, whereas the Dragolian image was closely linked to Jiyu, so it still stayed ferociously in the sky while roaring endlessly. Not bad. I admit that I've underestimated you since the beginning. Jiyu took a deep breath, causing the surging vital energy and blood and the discomfort he felt to vanish, and his aura became even stronger. She didn't seize the opportunity to follow up with an attack, and he said indifferently, "If you only have this little strength, then you'll lose for sure. It's better for you to withdraw from the combat ring as early as possible. You think you can defeat me with just this little ability? You still don't have the qualifications." Jiyu suddenly revealed a slightly wicked and ghastly smile, and the red lotus pattern tattoo on his head was suddenly suffused with a crimson-red glow. It was like a blood lotus had bloomed in the blink of an eye, and a black-colored ruthless aura surged on every single one of its numerous crimson-red petals. I originally intended to teach you a lesson and let you off once you hand over the Buddha's pagoda. But since you're not sensible, and are instead arrogant and conceited, don't blame me for embarrassing you. You've actually cultivated both Buddhist sect and devil sect techniques? Xianxia's eyes narrowed as he discerned that the aura on Jiyu was from the same source as the auras he'd felt from the Tang brothers and Fan Yunlan. All of their auras were overbearing, unbridled, arrogant, and violent. According to his knowledge, besides the devil cultivators of the Blood Crescent Devil sect, there were also a portion of cultivators in the Darchu dynasty that cultivated in devil sect cultivation techniques. So long as they didn't commit heinous crimes or act against reason and the world, they wouldn't suffer the siege of others. You only noticed now? Exactly. I've indeed cultivated both Buddhist sect and devil sect cultivation techniques. With Buddha in my heart and the devil in my palm, I've brought both of them together and mastered them. I'm both the devil that slaughters the world and the Buddha that releases the world from suffering. How can a tiny sword cultivator like you be a match for me? At this moment, Jiyu's entire body was covered in vast holy light, yet his eyes surged with devilish flames. He was arrogant and domineering, like a Buddha, yet like a devil, and his aura was more than 2 times more formidable than before. She shook his head. This person really has an exaggerated opinion of his ability. He has concealed his strength, but haven't I done the same? It's even to the extent that I've only utilized 50% of my strength up until now. I'll admit defeat if I'm unable to defeat you within 3 moves. There was a slight instant where Jiyu's expression froze, then it became gloomy, and he stared at Xianxia while fully revealing the boiling killing intent in his heart. Very good. Let me see who will defeat who within 3 moves. Thump. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiyu stomped on the ground, and it was like a star had plunged to the ground, shaking the entire combat ring to the point it shook violently, whereas his entire body flashed out explosively instead like an arrow that left the bow. His left hand surged with devilish flames while his right hand was coiled with holy light. One was wicked and overbearing, the other vast and grand. They formed 2 types of completely different, yet similarly exceedingly terrifying energies. The blood of devils knows no bounds as it taints the clear sky. The Buddha wields his blade of slaughter to expiate the sins of all. Bang! Instantly, Gu blasted out over 1,000 palm images that caused the entire sky to warp and be filled with destructive energy. Strands of golden Buddhist flames flowed down as numerous enraged howls of devil gods shook the heavens and the earth, and it enveloped the entire surroundings. Give up evil and achieve salvation. Give up evil. A wave of Buddhist chanting resounded out. Enter my devil sect and do my bidding. Fight the heavens, destroy the world, and wander about freely in the universe. A wave of decrees of the devil gods spread out. The entire space in the combat ring seemed to have transformed into a world that was the combination of a vast and magnanimous world with another world that surged with devilish flames. The conflicting and warping field caused anyone who looked at it from afar to feel their vital energy and blood roil and souls tremble to the point they almost spat blood. Gu is an especially gifted genius. He combined both Buddha and devil to open up a path that belongs to himself. Just this move is sufficient to make me take him seriously. Young Master Zhou was moved, and the battle intent in his eyes grew more and more exuberant. Obviously, the strength Gu revealed had already completely drawn out his desire to do battle. Amazing. I'm afraid I'd have to exert my full strength when facing this move. And Chen Yu's gaze burned as he muttered, "What about Xianxia? How will he go against this move?" "I'm extremely curious as well." Wang Daoshu nodded. "Can Xianxia win?" Yiqing turned around to look at Xinluqing, and her eyes unconsciously revealed a wisp of worry. At this moment, she entirely had no mood to argue with Xinluqing. "The battle hasn't ended. You'll find out if you continue watching calmly." Xinluqing gave her a reassuring gaze before saying slowly, "He won't stop here." On the spectating area, a wisp of astonishment and pity gushed onto the faces of everyone. As far as they were concerned, Xianxia would probably lose with hatred in his heart before this move. Time seemed to have frozen at this moment. The two types of terrifying energies that were filled with holy light and devilish flames covered the entire combat ring and caused Xianxia's entire body to be completely sealed off within it, and he was like a straw within a tempestuous storm, seeming to be so tiny and weak. The energies of Buddha and devil ought to be like water and fire, yin and yang, sky and earth. They're at two extremes and reject each other. If it's utilized in the Grand Obliteration Fist, it would seem to be not bad. Xianxia stood unmoving and even had the time to sense the profundities contained within this strike of Gu's. But he'd also noticed that Gu hadn't completely fused the energies of Buddha and devil, and both the energies were only getting along together via a marvelous method and had not fused. If this fellow completely fuses them, then perhaps he'll really be able to force out my full strength. But unfortunately, he can only stop here. The tip of Xianxia's sword moved swiftly. Surging water vapor and billowing flames abruptly appeared on the surface of the talisman armament, and flowing within it was bolts of dazzling lightning arcs and gusts of wispy and traceless typhoon vortexes. At this instant, the energy of the four grand daos of water, fire, lightning, and wind had fused flawlessly on the talisman armament, and the surging and pure energy of slaughter within it actually seemed to have caused everything in the surroundings to freeze and become motionless. The Qin trigram represented water. The Qin sword of water was like a surging stream and stormy sea. The Li trigram represented fire. The Li sword of fire was raging and violent, scorching and overbearing. The Zhen trigram represented lightning. The Zhen sword of lightning possessed moves that were like bolts of lightning that conquered all. The Sun trigram represented wind. The Sun sword of wind contained a myriad of variations that were swift and agile. Every single one of these four great sword moves of the myriad convergence sword scripture were vast like the ocean and contained boundless variations and constantly changing profundities. Every single one of them had their own miraculous effect, and every single one of them could compare to a Tao-grade martial technique when used against an enemy, causing it to be extremely terrifying. At this moment, the energy of the four grand daos of water, fire, lightning, and wind had fused flawlessly and condensed into a single sword strike. The surging and pure energy of slaughter within it actually seemed to have instantly caused everything in the surroundings to freeze and become motionless. Swish! A sound that was like the sound of cloth tearing resounded out as a hole that was impossible to repair was torn open in the frozen air, and the vast holy light and surging devilish flames seal of the entire space within the combat ring were instantly broken apart. The sword light soared through the sky like a rainbow that penetrated through the universe, and it was vast and lofty as it struck out. Swish! Swish! The myriad of palm images struck out by Gu were shattered successively, and they were unable to stop it in the slightest. The terrifying sword move even covered Gu within it and fiercely struck him high into the sky. His entire body was bathed in blood, with injuries densely covering his body, and his appearance was extremely tragic. Bang! Young Master Zhou squashed the jade cup in his hand, yet he entirely didn't notice it as he stared fixedly at the combat ring, at the sword strike of Xianxia that was about to tear through the sky and slash out, and his gaze was filled with shock. The fusing of the 4 great sword moves doesn't just cause its strength to increase explosively by 4 times. Doesn't this mean that his comprehension of the myriad convergence sword scripture has already attained the 4th level? Young Master Zhou had the fortune of listening to a peerless sword immortal preach about the Tao when he was young, and the sword immortal had once talked about the myriad convergence sword scripture. He said this sword scripture was reputed to be the sword technique that was most difficult to cultivate in the world, and there were 2 reasons to this. The first was that amongst the 8 great sword moves, every single sword move contained boundless variations that were vast like the Milky Way, causing it to be impossible for an ordinary person to comprehend superficial knowledge of it. The second reason was that this sword technique required the supplement of 8 Tao insights that were completely different. So if one didn't possess shocking and extraordinary talent, then one would be unable to cultivate even a bit of it. It was precisely these 2 reasons that caused people to rarely have the courage to cultivate this sword scripture, even if it was vastly circulated. When all was said and done, it came down to only a single word: difficulty. But that peerless sword immortal had once said that in the surging annals of history, there were outstanding people with extraordinary wisdom that had comprehended a trace of the myriad convergence sword scripture's true essence, yet there was no one that was capable of cultivating it to perfection. There was only a single reason for this: attaining perfection in it required one to completely fuse all of the 8 great sword moves in a single sword strike. This was extremely easy to understand. What was meant by myriad convergence was to converge a myriad of variations into a single sword strike, and this was the true meaning behind the name myriad convergence sword scripture. The later generations had relied on this meaning to divide the myriad convergence sword scripture into 8 levels. Merely grasping the 8 great sword moves could only be considered to be peeking through the threshold, and it was the first level. The second level required fusing every 2 types of sword moves in the sword scripture. For example, the water flame sword Tao, the sky earth sword Tao, the mountain marsh sword Tao, and so on and so forth. The third level required fusing 3 types of sword moves together. For example, the water flame lightning sword Tao, the flame wind lightning sword Tao, and so on and so forth. The 4th level required the fusing of 4 types of sword moves. For example, the water flame wind lightning sword Tao Xianxia executed now, and it was fused from the boundless variations of the sword moves of water, fire, lightning, and wind, adding on repeatedly in order. Completely fusing the 8 sword moves in the sword scripture was the 8th level of the myriad convergence sword scripture, and at this point the entire sword scripture could be said to have been cultivated to perfection. According to what that peerless sword immortal said, 1 in a million people in the world were capable of comprehending the myriad convergence sword scripture, and one who could attain the first level in the sword scripture was already capable of being called an outstanding genius. Moreover, a figure that was capable of comprehending it to a higher level was already a peerless genius, a genius that created miracles, a genius that led the world, and all convention was incapable of appraising and judging a figure like this. It was precisely because of this that young Master Zhou was unable to maintain his composure when he witnessed the strike of Xianxia, and his heart was filled with a tempestuous storm and he was shocked to speechlessness. At this moment, and Shenyu, Wang Daoxu, Yiqing, Jin Luqing, and the other experts had all noticed the true strength contained within this sword strike of Xianxia, and they felt an extremely complicated feeling in their hearts as well. This fellow is simply a freak. No one is capable of guessing exactly how formidable his strength is. When everyone thinks that he's facing imminent danger, he would always be able to safely get through it at the critical moment. However, when you think that this is the extent of his strength, the strength he revealed next would instantly and completely destroy your entire perception. It seems as if his strength will rise along with the strength of his opponent. No one is able to know where his bottom line is at, nor will anyone be able to know what his true trump card was. You've broken apart my Buddha and devil territory. How could this be possible? Impossible. Under the siege of the sword light, Gu was like a mad devil, and he had a savage expression as the injuries on his entire body recovered swiftly at a visible speed. This was the formidableness of the school of fiend god body refinement. So long as the heart and head weren't injured, the cultivator would be able to instantly recover all injuries. Amidst an enraged roar, holy light flared up around Gu's body, and his entire body abruptly transformed into the form of having 3 heads and 6 arms. One had a benevolent and kind countenance, another had a ferocious and savage appearance, and the last was his own original head. Moreover, those 6 arms that were thick like rocks held a bell, wooden clapper, ruler, horsetail brush, prayer beads, and an oil lantern. Every single instrument was condensed from Buddha energy, flowed with golden light, and emitted the energy of light that eliminated all evil. This was another divine ability called deity transformation. The 3 heads viewed all directions and didn't have the slightest blind spot, causing assassins adept in assassination to have no way to launch a strike. When those 6 arms struck out at the same time, their strength skyrocketed, causing it to be extremely formidable, and it was instead as if one was facing 3 enemies. When looked at from afar, the current Gu was like a god with a solemn and dignified expression as he terrorized the world with his might. Since the beginning of the battle, all the abilities Gu had executed were extremely formidable. The divine ability Dragolian Vidyaraja Seal, the Buddha and Devil territory, and the current deity transformation. All of them were rare cultivation techniques that caused the spectators to be secretly shocked to the extreme. Chun Shi, receive another strike of mine. Gu shouted out explosively as the profound instruments condensed in his 6 hands blasted out with a brilliant glow, causing the images of Buddhas to be faintly visible as holy fire surged, and it struck down to envelop Chun Shi. Ignorant fool. Fuck off. This time, Chun Shi didn't intend to destroy every move that came at him. The talisman armament in his hand instantly condensed the Tao insights of wind, lightning, fire, and mountain to form a mountain that seemed to have risen explosively, and it practically covered half the combat ring. Not only did it put an end to Gu's attack, it even pressed down upon Gu to the point that he was pushed to the ground. Gu still struggled with the intention of counterattacking, but Chun Shi already had no more interest in this battle, and he held his sword with one hand before slashing it down vertically. Bang! The roaring sword insight blasted out with a ghastly and surging killing intent that was dense to the point it was suffocating, and a wisp of terror abruptly arose in Gu's heart. He faintly saw an enormous mountain-splitting sword descending in the sky, and if he didn't flee, he would surely have his head shattered, his body broken apart, and face imminent death. Even though killing was prohibited on the combat ring, the terror in his heart caused Gu to not dare make a bet with his life, and he couldn't care about embarrassment. When facing the threat of death, he exploded out with unprecedented potential, and he flashed out to escape in a sorry state. A wisp of ridicule arose on the corners of Chun Shi's mouth. He was precisely waiting for Gu to flee the combat ring himself. After all, Chun Shi wasn't willing to break the rules of the Gold Lake meeting and cause a lot of trouble for himself. Bang! Gu had just fled out the combat ring when Chun Shi's sword had descended fiercely, and the terrifying sword insight struck down to the point it seemed as if it wanted to slash the entire combat ring in 2. Sharp air flows shot out and slices out numerous horrifying sword marks on the ground in the surroundings of the combat ring. Every single strand of a terrifying sword chi like this was absolutely capable of causing the death of another. Hiss! The spectators that faced the combat ring right ahead of them gasped. Even though there was a distance of 5 kilometers between them and the combat ring, yet they still felt how terrifying his strike was, causing them to feel a chill run down their spines, and their souls almost left their bodies. They even doubted if Chun Shi's strike would chop the entire spectating area into 2 and smash them into mush. It's too terrifying. This is a true sword cultivator. A sword cultivator whose offensive ability surpasses all. Damn it! This strike felt as if it struck on my heart and was impossible to defend against. I thought I'd already died earlier. Where's Gu? Could it be that Gu really fled in defeat before this strike? Right when everyone was discussing animatedly, the various defensive formations on the surface of the combat ring, made of black shell steel, dimmed down and became lusterless, and they were on the verge of collapse. At this moment, even Cui Shan, who presided over the battles in this combat ring, was dumbstruck. The degree of hardness of this combat ring was sufficient to resist the attack of a perfection stage Golden Core Realm cultivator, and its surface had been inscribed by talisman formation masters with various defensive formations, causing even a nether transformation realm cultivator to have to spend a period of time in order to damage it. Even though this strike of Xianxia's didn't break through the combat ring, yet it caused the defensive formations on the surface of the combat ring to be on the verge of collapse. So exactly how terrifying was the strength contained within this strike? Fortunately, the host of the Gold Lake meeting this time had sufficiently considered the occurrence of a situation where the combat ring was damaged, so it wasn't long before a few gray-haired talisman formation masters ascended the number 3 combat ring and started setting up the formation anew. Xianxia's competition could only stop temporarily, but he didn't leave the combat ring, and instead recuperated his strength while observing these talisman formation masters setting up the formation with great interest. He looked as if defeating Gu earlier didn't cause him to be proud in the slightest, and he seemed to be extremely calm. Compared to Xianxia's calmness, the spectating area was in an uproar at this moment. All the spectators were discussing the breathtaking battle between Xianxia and Gu animatedly, causing the battles that were being carried out in the other 10+ combat rings to have no one paying attention to them, and they were extremely cold and quiet. But observant people noticed that beneath the clamorous atmosphere was a faintly strained undercurrent flowing, and it was as if something would happen in the next moment. His offensive ability isn't bad, but this was your trump card, right? Now allow me to end everything. Su Chan, who wore white clothes, swiftly stood up and left the spectating area. Look, the warlord's estate. Su Chan intends to make a move. Could it be that he wants to challenge Xianxia? Impossible. Xianxia has already experienced over 40 battles earlier and has just fought a fierce battle with Gu. His strength is probably already at its end. If Su Chan goes to challenge Xianxia, it's obviously an act of bullying Xianxia, and with his status, he'll surely not act in such a way. Quickly look over there. Many people noticed Su Chan's actions and discussed with low voices, whereas, at the same time, some people noticed to their shock that it wasn't just Su Chan. Even young Master Zhou, and Chenyu, Wang Daoxiu, and the others had stood up and practically left the spectating area in unison to flash towards the combat ring. At this moment, all these experts who were renowned in the world since long ago and were similarly the most popular figures in the Gold Lake meeting this time had actually moved out. What exactly was going on? Up until now, only less than half of the challenges in the second round of the Gold Lake meeting have been carried out. Don't all experts enter the ring at the end? Why would they ascend to the ring now? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Under the gazes of everyone present, young Master Zhou, and Chenyu, Wang Daoxiu, and Su Chan flew like bolts of lightning with oppressive bearings like gods as they flashed towards the combat rings from different directions. Merely their swift and beautiful movement techniques drew a wave of cheering from the spectating area. But most shocking to them was the following scene. These 4 top experts in the younger generation actually had a surprisingly identical target. All of them were flashing towards the number 3 combat ring in unison. Wasn't Xianxia on the number 3 combat ring? Could it be that they want to challenge Xianxia? Everyone present was instantly in an uproar and almost didn't dare believe their own eyes. What ability did Xianxia possess to actually draw the battle desire of these 4 top experts? Aren't they slightly bullying him? Someone spoke weakly. Bullying him? This is a battle carried out by way of challenge. According to the rules, so long as one stands on the combat ring, then anyone can challenge the person. Young Master Zhou and the others making a move against him conforms with the rules, so how can it be said to be bullying him? Someone refuted. But Xianxia has just experienced a fierce battle, and his strength is greatly exhausted. If they are to challenge him now, then even if they win, it will probably not be honorable, right? Humph. Nobodies like us don't need to worry about things like these. Since the rules of the Gold Lake meeting have been set like this, then there's surely a deep meaning behind it. Perhaps this is to tell everyone in the world that it isn't such an easy thing to obtain 100 successive victories, and only by experiencing the obstruction of numerous experts would one have really achieved 100 successive victories. They're going too far. How can these fellows act like this? On the other side of the spectating area, Yiqing was furious to the point her beautiful brows slanted up. Her almond eyes glared wide open, and they seemed to be on the verge of spraying fire. Zhen Luqing combed the hair behind her ear and pondered for a moment before she said, "The matter isn't as you think. If I'm not wrong, that sword strike of Chen Shi's had already completely lit up the battle intent of young Master Zhou and the others. Perhaps as far as they're concerned, being able to fight Chen Shi would bring an extremely great benefit to the improvement of their own strength." When she spoke up to hear, the corners of Zhen Liuqing's mouth couldn't help but be suffused with a trace of a smile. This fully proves that Chen Shi has already become an opponent worthy of being treated equally in their eyes. After he experiences the following battles that Ri about to be carried about, then no matter win or lose, Chen Shi's name will be spread throughout Azure County and be known by the entire cultivation world of the Central Plains. According to what you've said, Chen Shi should feel honored instead. Yiqing frowned. I can accept it if it's a fair competition, but are they carrying out a fair competition? These are the rules of the Gold Lake meeting. If one wants to achieve 100 successive victories, how could it be such a simple thing? Zhen Luqing said indifferently, "Actually, we utterly don't have to worry. Perhaps Chen Shi eagerly looks forward to them challenging him." "What do you mean by that?" asked Yiqing. Zhen Luqing said with deep meaning, "Could it be that you haven't perceived that even up to the point he defeated Jiyu, Chen Shi seems to have not exerted his full strength yet?" Zhen Luqing recalled the battle from before. Sure enough, she noticed that from the beginning until the end, no matter how formidable Jiyu's attack was, Chen Shi seemed to have an extremely casual appearance without the slightest nervous feeling of facing a formidable enemy. What did this indicate? This indicated that in Chen Shi's heart, Jiyu's strength was utterly incapable of bringing any threat to him. When she thought up to here, the worry and rage in Yiqing's heart was completely wiped away, and the corners of her mouth were unconsciously suffused with a wisp of an enchanting smile. On the number 3 combat ring, those gray-haired talisman formation masters were still swiftly repairing the damaged defensive formations on the combat ring, whereas Chen Shi stood at the side and watched with great interest. Since the beginning, he'd always been fumbling about himself in his learning of the Tao of Talismans, and he'd never seen the skill of other talisman formation masters. At this moment, when he briefly observed them, he really noticed many points that were worthy to be learned. For example, how to utilize formation discs and formation flags, or how to bring forth the strength of the formation's foundation to the best state. A further example was how to combine various different formations to attain a state of flawless combination, causing them to seem like they were a single formation. Perhaps the standard of these talisman formation masters were inferior to him, yet the experience they possessed was worthy of him learning and drawing experience from. This was precisely the principle that one could learn from anyone. Chen Shi had similarly noticed the arrival of young Master Zhou, and Xinyu, Wang Daoshu, and Su Chan, and besides feeling slightly surprised, he didn't have any other thoughts. His way of thinking was extremely simple. Since it was a competition done via challenges, there would surely be people that would challenge him. Since others could challenge him, young Master Zhou and the others naturally could as well, and it was enough to treat them equal. In any case, he came here this time only for the sake of testing his own strength after advancing to the Golden Core realm, so the more experts, the better. All in all, only by battling experts would one be able to clearly understand one's strength, right? Compared to Chen Shi's simple mentality, undercurrents brewed in secret, and the smell of gunpowder suffused the air between young Master Zhou and Xinyu, Wang Daoshu, and Su Chan. All of them were extremely surprised, as they never imagined that the other 3 would actually have the same thoughts as them and intended to seize this moment to battle Chen Shi. But after feeling surprised, all of them silently came into competition with each other. It was common knowledge that all four of them were hotshot figures in the Gold Lake meeting this time. The strengths of every single one of them couldn't be underestimated, and it was even to the extent that their strengths surpassed the numerous participants. Coupled with their respectable backgrounds, unyielding characters, and the relationship between them, they naturally wouldn't be friendly with each other. Looks like all of you intend to battle Xianxia. But I think that if any one of us ascends the combat ring now, then even if we defeat Xianxia, it would be unfair. What do all of you think? Young Master Zhou fanned the jade fan in his hand as he swept the other three with his gaze and spoke slowly with a calm and unhurried voice that carried an awe-inspiring bearing that caused others to have no choice but to listen to it. Indeed, Xianxia has already experienced 41 battles, and his strength has surely been consumed. If we go challenge him now, then it would be a slightly undeserving victory and slightly beneath our dignity, said Xianxia as he nodded. Then could it be that young Master Zhou has a good suggestion? Wang Daoshu asked from the side. Young Master Zhou smiled lightly as he patted the jade fan in his hand and said, I do indeed have a suggestion. Not only is it capable of solving this problem, it's also able to decide who amongst us will challenge Xianxia first. At this moment, it wasn't just Wang Daoshu. Even Xianxia revealed an interested expression. Only Su Chan had been standing there indifferently since the beginning, and his icy cold eyes stared at Xianxia who was on the combat ring. It seemed as if besides Xianxia, everything in the surroundings were incapable of arousing his interest. It's extremely simple. Hasn't Xianxia obtained 41 successive victories? Then we four will similarly obtain 41 successive victories before challenging Xianxia. How about it? Young Master Zhou said, the first person to achieve this will be the first to challenge Xianxia, and the others will challenge him according to order. In this way, wouldn't it solve all our problems? It's fine this way as well. And Xianxia nodded. This method had indeed made it fair and solved the problem of the order they challenged Xianxia in, and it couldn't be any better. But I still have one question, Wang Daoshu said with a frown. If the first person that challenges Xianxia loses, then the other three of us probably have to give Xianxia some time to recover his strength, right? Otherwise, would it be any different to successively battling him to tire him out? Young Master Zhou was stunned, and then chuckled. If I'm the first to ascend the ring, then I'll absolutely not allow Xianxia to continue winning. So the problem you're worried about will probably not occur. What an arrogant fellow. Does he think that he can be the first to obtain 41 successive victories to be the first to challenge Xianxia and defeat Xianxia? And Xianxia and Wang Daoshu frowned. Never mind. For the sake of relieving all of you, I'll put up a Dragon Soul Jade pendant as a wager. How about it? Young Master Zhou sighed before taking out a jade pendant that contained dense vital blood and was extremely beautiful. This jade pendant was only palm-sized. At the instant it appeared in the air, an extremely shocking and boundless dragon chi gushed out from it instantaneously. Exactly, it was really dragon chi. The dense vitality and extremely copious energy within it even formed a true dragon phantom that swam proudly as it shook the sky, and it was an astonishing scene. Dragon Soul Jade Pendant. Supposedly, it contains a strand of the blood essence and soul of a primordial divine beast, the green dragon, and it's impervious to evil and disease. Moreover, it possesses a mysterious and extremely beneficial effect to one's cultivation. In the entire Darchu dynasty, it seems that only the members of the imperial family possess this precious treasure. And Xianxu's eyes squinted as he spoke with surprise, and he seemed to not dare believe that young Master Zhou had actually taken out this thing to bet with. Exactly. It's precisely this treasure. Young Master Zhou smiled lightly as he played with the Dragon Soul Jade pendant in his hand and said unhurriedly, the first person amongst us to challenge Xianxia will be able to obtain this treasure. Of course, if I'm the first person to challenge Xianxia, then if I lose the battle, this treasure will become Xianxia's possession. Once he possesses this treasure, so long as he absorbs the dragon soul and blood essence contained within it, his strength would surely be able to recover to its optimum state in 10 minutes. No matter who is the next to challenge him, the situation where one doesn't deserve the victory wouldn't occur. What does everyone think about this? What extravagance! He actually took out a Dragon Soul Jade pendant to bet with. Besides proving that he was extremely wealthy, it indicated he possessed an extremely strong confidence towards his own strength. Otherwise, he would absolutely not take out a Dragon Soul Jade pendant and joke with it. Under these circumstances, how could Xianxia and Wang Daoshu continue hesitating? So they agreed right away. Only Su Chan remained, and he didn't say a single word from the beginning until the end. It was even to the extent that when young Master Zhou made a bet with a precious treasure like the Dragon Soul Jade pendant, it didn't even draw his attention. What? You don't agree? You want to disregard our opinions? Young Master Zhou frowned, and his eyes flickered with an icy cold light as he shot his gaze directly towards Su Chan. And Xianxia and Wang Daoshu revealed displeased expressions, as well as they looked over coldly with gazes that carried a trace of a strong threatening feeling. In terms of status and strength, they weren't the slightest bit inferior to the warlord's estate's Su Chan. So how could they allow him to single-handedly spoil their agreement? As he felt the undisguised threatening intent of the three, even though Su Chan was extremely confident of his current strength, he understood that once he directly indicated his disagreement, he would surely encounter the joint suppression of the three of them. In this way, even though he had the warlord's estate behind him to rely on, he would be entirely unable to endure it. After staying silent for a short moment, Su Chan nodded unwillingly as he squeezed out a voice from between the cracks in his teeth. All right, then we'll see exactly who defeats Xianxia first. Good spirit. This is how a true cultivator speaks. Young Master Zhou laughed heartily, and then his gaze swept the other combat rings and said, besides the combat ring Xianxia is on, there are another 17 combat rings. We'll choose one each and compete to see who amongst us is capable of obtaining 41 successive victories first. Let's begin. As soon as they finished speaking, the four of them instantly flashed out explosively towards the other combat rings, and all of them wanted to choose the first person amongst them to challenge Xianxia in the first possible moment. When he saw this scene, Xianxia, who was on the combat ring, finally returned to his senses, and he rubbed his nose as he muttered to himself. I never imagined that I've actually become the fragrant bun that everyone is fighting for. On the spectating area, Yaqing couldn't help but burst out laughing, and her eyes curved to seem like two crescent moons as she chuckled. This fellow is such a bastard. It's already come to this, yet he still has the mood to joke about himself. The nearby Zhen Luqing couldn't help but smile, and her burning starry eyes were bright like the moon as she said, it can be seen from this that she is extremely confident about the fierce battles that about to come. Let's wait and see. Meanwhile, everyone in the spectating area came to an understanding, and they were extremely interested towards young Master Zhou's suggestion. All of them stared their eyes wide open and wanted to see who would become the first person to challenge Xianxia. However, right at this moment, a scene that exceeded everyone's expectations occurred. On the number 2 combat ring, the Jade Pool Celestial Isles Hua Mabe actually leaped off his combat ring after defeating his opponent and arrived at Xianxia's combat ring before cupping his hands. Brother Chun, why don't we seize this opportunity to have a spar? Meanwhile, the damaged defensive formation on the number 3 combat ring had already been repaired to its previous state, and it was even to the extent of avoiding any accident from occurring in the following battles. These gray-haired talisman formation masters had set up an extra layer of defensive formation, causing the entire combat ring to be strongly fortified now. Hua Mabe's appearance caused Xianxia to be slightly surprised, and then it vanished almost instantaneously as he nodded and said, I naturally welcome your challenge. I've already won 56 battles in succession earlier, and I felt that challenging Brother Chun at this moment can be considered to be a fair battle. Thus I took the risk of ascending the ring. I hope that Brother Chun understands. Hua Mabe smiled with a carefree expression as his clothes fluttered with the wind, and he seemed to be rather open and straightforward. Everyone in the spectating area came to a sudden understanding, and the trace of ill feelings towards Hua Mabe that had just arisen in their hearts vanished instantly without a trace. They instead felt that he was frank, open, and filled with an elegant demeanor, and he wasn't the slightest bit inferior to young Master Zhou and the others. Let's begin. Xianxia nodded. Brother Chun, please guide me. Hua Mabe smiled. As soon as he finished speaking, the true essence in his entire body surged. His long hair fluttered, and his unrestrained and graceful bearing had vanished completely. He seemed like an unsheathed sharp sword that revealed its cutting edge. I presume both of you know the rules clearly, so I won't speak any further. The Rebirth Realm cultivator that presided over the number 3 combat ring, Cui Shan, swept the two of them with his gaze before he said in a deep voice, "Begin!" Swoosh! Xianxia's wrist moved to launch an attack, and a sword move that contained the fire Dao insight shot out like a serpent soaring in the sky, as it shot out like a bolt of lightning and struck at Hua Mabe. The myriad convergence sword scriptures Li Sword of Fire. Hua Mabe saw a sword light flying over. Even though it appeared to be extremely ordinary, yet the airflow in its surroundings seemed to be lit ablaze, and the violent and raging fire Dao insight enveloped the combat ring and caused him to seem as if he was within a sea of flames. Swish! The sword in Hua Mabe's hand surged with dark blue waves as it tore through the sky, and it actually carried along a clear blue stream of water. Every single drop of water seemed as if it weighed 15,000 kilograms, and it was actually origin-heavy water gathered from a deep-sea spring. When contained within the water Dao insight, it specialized in countering the fire Dao insight. Especially when this type of origin-heavy water fused into a sword move, the might brought forth by it was the most tremendous and material. With a single strike, Hua Mabe had broken apart Xianxia's sword of fire, and then his sword move spun to transform into violent waves that turned around to pounce at Xianxia. The enormous waves surged and covered the surroundings, and they seemed to want to drown Xianxia within the sword insight that was like an enormous wave. Brother Chun, bring out your true ability. Otherwise, you'll absolutely not be a match for me. Hua Mabe laughed heartily as his sword move sank and compressed inwards, and the enormous wave formed from origin-heavy water seemed to want to instantly crush Xianxia into powder. Swoosh! Right at this moment, Xianxia, who was enveloped by the surging enormous waves, suddenly vanished without a trace. In the next moment, a sword light that was illusory like the skies appeared by Hua Mabe's side, and it instantly arrived before Hua Mabe and slashed down. Shockingly, it was the Qian sword of sky. The sword move was superficial like the eternal sky, illusory and agile, and it covered the entire surroundings. It was the most swift and fierce method to kill someone instantly. The Qian sword of sky, a peak sword move that contained the Sky Dao insight. During this battle, Shi purely utilized technique. He used the Li Sword of Fire to draw out Hua Mabe's water sword insight, then suddenly utilized the Starsky wings to leave the battlefield before executing the Qian sword of sky to carry out an assault. His utilization between the 8 great sword moves of the myriad convergence sword scripture was already excellent to the extreme. As far as he was concerned, Hua Mabe was just like Lu Fengqi, who he'd encountered in the past and was skilled in water Dao insight. After all, comprehending and mastering water Dao insight was the most convenient and simple in the Eastern Sea. But he had similarly mastered the water Dao insight, and the Can sword of water was executed with the water Dao insight, so his utilization of the profundities of water was only deeper than Hua Mabe. So how could he be afraid of Hua Mabe's sword move? Under these circumstances, Hua Mabe's origin heavy water didn't have the slightest deterrent force before him, and practically the slightest utilization of the Starsky wings already allowed him to escape being locked onto by Hua Mabe's sword move before executing the Qian sword of sky to carry out an assault. All of this indicated that Xi's grasp towards battling had already attained an entirely new height. Amazing! No wonder Yu lost at his hands. His combat technique has obviously already attained a state of perfection. I must not be careless. Hua Mabe felt apprehensive in his heart as the true essence in his body surged. The sword in his hand swept out horizontally and condensed numerous dark blue-colored barriers that were like splashes of water, and they moved to forcefully block the strike of the Qian sword of sky. Bang! A sound of collision that was like the sound of a mountain collapsing resounded out as the barriers were slashed into dispersal by the single strike, whereas Hua Mabe seized the opportunity when the sword strike collided with the barriers to retreat explosively, and he barely descended on the edge of the combat ring. But even then, this strike had struck him to the point his vital energy and blood roiled, and astonishment arose once more in his heart. What a tremendous strength! Could it be that he utterly didn't exhaust much true essence during the battle with Jiyu earlier? If it's really like this, then the strength he's concealing is too terrifying. These thoughts flashed within his mind before Hua Mabei's heart instantly recovered to its emotionless state. His strength had attained the perfection stage of the Golden Core realm long ago, and he had wandered about in the dangerous places of the Eastern Sea for many years, so he absolutely wouldn't arouse the intention to retreat just because his estimation of Xianxia's strength was mistaken. Conversely, a surging battle intent that was firm and scorching gushed out from his heart instead. Only an opponent like this could temper his strength. Moreover, this was precisely the purpose of his participation in the Gold Lake meeting. So how could he not properly grasp such an opportunity? Fight! 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 Two balls of flames seemed to burn within Hua Mabei's eyes as billowing battle intent gushed out from his entire body. Instantly, the surging battle intent actually seemed to become material and form a boundless blue-colored enormous oceanic wave that caused him to seem extremely imposing. The jade pool is boundless, and the ocean spirit is Lord. Hua Mabei shouted out loudly as the sword in his hand abruptly gushed out with a roiling enormous wave. Shockingly, there was a completely azure blue water beast phantom that was completely covered in scales, had limbs that were like pillars, and eyes that were like brass bells on the enormous wave, and it roared into the sky as it rode the wave over. Roar! The water beast phantom let out an enormous roar that was like the sound of the god of lightning striking his hammer, and it resounded out in the world to the point it broke apart and dispersed the layers of clouds, and even the people in the spectating area felt their entire bodies tremble as their ears buzzed. Its roar was like thunder. Shockingly, this water beast phantom was a divine beast overlord in the ocean, the Kueox. Instantly, the entire number 3 combat ring had completely become an underwater world, with the sound of thunder surging and tidewater rolling, and it completely enveloped Xianxia within it. Dao Insight taking form. Dao Insight is divided into 4 realms and 12 levels. Hua Mabei's grasp of the water Dao Insight has obviously already attained the 6th level in the initial realm. Amazing! The realm of Dao Insight taking form. How many rebirth realm cultivators haven't attained it, yet it has appeared in the hands of this fellow. With such ability, it's sufficient for him to be equal to young Master Zhou and the others. Exactly. Amongst the Golden Core realm experts of the younger generation, those who are capable of attaining the 6th level in the initial realm in Dao Insight can already be considered to be at the top. Young Master Zhou and Chenyu Wang Daoshu and the others are all like this. Attaining this state meant that one possessed an extremely great likelihood of entering the top 100 in the All-Star meeting. Yeah. According to past experiences, the comprehension and Dao Insight of the Golden Core realm experts of the younger generation that are ranked in the top 100 of the All-Star meeting have all attained this extent. I never imagined that Hua Mabei actually possesses such strength as well. He's indeed capable of being called an extraordinary genius. When they saw the might of Hua Mabei's strike had caused such a great phenomenon, the spectating area was instantly in an uproar, and all their faces revealed expressions of shock. This person's strength is rather good. I'd once heard that an extraordinary genius with superb natural talent had appeared in the Jade Pool Celestial Isle when I was at the Eastern Sea. The rare thing about that extraordinary genius was that his Dao heart was completely firm, and he ceaselessly challenged his own limits with various intense battles. I presume that extraordinary genius is this person. If given the time, he'll probably be another figure like Huangfu Changtian and Zhao Qinghe. On the spectating area, Zhen Luqing noticed the surging battle intent and Dao Insight Hua Mabei revealed, and she couldn't help but praise repeatedly. Do people praise their enemies like this? Yiqing glared at Zhen Luqing with displeasure. Enemy? Zhen Luqing was stunned. Aren't the enemies of Xianxia our enemies as well? Yiqing blurted out, and then realized it was inappropriate and spat. I forgot that you and I aren't in the same group. Zhen Luqing smiled and didn't say anything further before raising her eyes to look at the combat ring. On the number 3 combat ring at this moment, she seemed to have fallen into a bitter battle in the eyes of everyone, and he was greatly different compared to the previously powerful and valiant Xianxia that defeated Jiyu with a single sword strike. The The sword strike Hua Mabe executed covered the entire combat ring with surging tidewater and accumulating waves. The Kue Ox phantom formed from Dao Insight was covered in the waves of water as it moved about freely and stomped successively at Xianxia, and its terrifying strength shook the entire combat ring to the point of emitting intense quaking sounds. On the other hand, Xianxia was like a fish within the enormous waves that fled and struggled in all directions. Even though he would escape unscathed every single time, in the eyes of everyone present, he'd obviously already fallen into a disadvantageous position of being dominated by Hua Mabe. What's going on? Xianxia's strength seems to have become weak. Could it be that the battle with Gu earlier has already exhausted more than half of his strength? It ought to be so. Even if his body is made of steel, it would become fatigued after drawn-out battles. But Hua Mabe has really concealed his strength deeply without revealing it. He has already fought over 50 battles, yet is still capable of fiercely suppressing Xianxia. He's terrifying indeed. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but be worried for Xianxia, and there were even some people that had already concluded that she would probably be unable to hold on for another 10 minutes before losing for sure. Brother Chen, has your strength only attained such a level? If this continues, then I'm afraid you're going to lose. Hua Mabe frowned. He originally thought he'd met his match and would surely be able to fight to his heart's content. But Xianxia's display seemed to be outwardly strong but weak internally, and it caused him to be rather disappointed. Looks like I'm indeed unable to shake this person while only utilizing 50% of my strength. Xianxia shook his head, and then his right wrist spun, causing the blade of his sword to tear through the sky. Rumble. At this moment, dense battle intent had been aroused in Xianxia's heart as well. The Dao insights of water, fire, wind, and lightning poured into the talisman armament with a bang, casing talisman markings to gush into appearance and divine light to soar into the sky. After that, a vast and shocking scene emerged before the eyes of everyone. An inferno bull that bathed in the light of flames stood on gales as it soared up into the sky, and the fur on its entire body was like a flaming cloud that overflowed with boundless and shocking fire Dao insight. At practically the exact same moment, a water qilin that carried surging streams of water appeared in the sky along with the inferno bull. The qilin had the head of a dragon and the body of a lion, eyes that were like lanterns, and a layer of lightning clouds that flickered with bolts of lightning coiled beneath its hooves as it appeared domineeringly before all. Two divine beast phantoms, one water and the other fire, stood proudly in the sky above the combat ring, and they were like two gods that had descended from the skies that emitted an awe-inspiring aura that caused one's heart to palpitate. Dao insight taking form. It's even the divine beast phantoms formed from two types of Dao insights. When they saw this scene, everyone in the spectating area almost had their jaws shocked off. Their eyes were stared wide open and seemed as if they were struck by lightning, and they carried appearances of shock and disbelief. The so-called 4 realms and 12 levels of Dao insight was the division of the Dao insights comprehended by cultivators into 12 levels and 4 realms. The first 3 levels were the elementary realm, attaining the 6th level was the initial realm, attaining the 9th level was the advanced realm, and attaining the 12th level was the perfection realm. When the Dao insight mastered by a cultivator attained the initial realm, the phenomenon of Dao insight taking form would appear. Moreover, once achieving this state, cultivators would be able to start condensing Dao territories. Something that must be pointed out was that the phenomenon of Dao insight taking form could only be developed by mastering a grand Dao insight, whereas minor Daos were incapable of this. Amongst the cultivators that sat in the Gold Lake meetings venue, practically all of them had a cultivation at the Golden Core realm. Moreover, they'd more or less comprehended Dao insight, so they naturally knew the levels of Dao insight like the back of their hands. Originally, when they saw Hua Mabe's sword strike out and form the divine beast phantom, Kue Ox, from Dao insight, they were already exceedingly shocked. At this moment, when they suddenly saw the phantoms of the divine beasts Inferno Bull and Water Qilin appear at the same time from Xianxia's attack, they were instantly unable to hold back the shock in their hearts and went into an uproar. My God! I didn't see wrongly, right? Both his fire and water Dao insights have attained the initial realm to develop divine beast phantoms. These are 2 grand Daos. How did this fellow Xianxia achieve it? Amazing! No wonder he was capable of defeating Gu with a cultivation at the initial stage of the Golden Core realm. Merely this advanced grasp of Tao insight has left others far behind him. Terrifying. He's truly a terrifying sword cultivator. A dazzling figure has finally appeared in the Southern Territories cultivation world. His natural talent and strength are so formidable that it isn't the slightest bit inferior to some of the genius figures in our Central Plains cultivation world. In the eyes of everyone, Xianxia's image had become greater once more, and he was already an existence that was equal to some of the top experts in the younger generation. But the outcome of the battle hadn't been decided yet, so they were unable to discern exactly how formidable Xianxia's strength was. Xianxia has obviously concealed strength in this strike. The Inferno Bull stormed out while riding on a gale, and that gale is a grand Tao as well. The water Qilin appeared while bathed in the light of lightning, and the lightning is similarly the grand Tao of lightning. If Xianxia exerts his full strength in that strike, I'm afraid another 2 more divine beast phantoms formed from wind and lightning would appear. Zhenlu Qing took a deep breath and seemed to be suppressing the shock in her heart as she said slowly, I met Xianxia once in Chen Yuan's treasure vault. Under the Equipment Emperor's Tao measuring stone at that time, the Tao insights he'd comprehended completely surpassed everyone and was equal to me. But the final outcome was that Xianxia was first because practically all the various Tao insights he'd comprehended were grand Taos, whereas I was obviously slightly inferior. At that time, his cultivation was only at the Golden Hall realm. Yiqing was stunned and seemed to have never imagined that Zhenlu Qing would actually acknowledge being inferior to Chen Shi in the comprehension of Tao insight, and she couldn't help but arouse a wisp of shock in her heart. Zhenlu Qing was someone the current Emperor Chu had personally judged to be an existence that could compare with Qing Shui and Huangfu Qingying, yet Xianxia was capable of suppressing Zhenlu Qing in terms of Tao insight comprehension. Didn't this mean that he was possibly more formidable than Qing Shui and Huangfu Qingying? Of course, this was merely a competition of Tao insight comprehension. But if such an outcome was spread, it would absolutely cause a tempestuous storm in the entire cultivation world. Rumble. As soon as the Inferno Bull and Water Qilin appeared on the number 3 combat ring, they instantly tore apart Hua Mabe's attack, and the enormous water element energy went berserk to shake the entire combat ring to the point it shook intensely. Roar! A heaven-shaking bear roar resounded out as the Inferno Bull carried billowing flames and an overbearing aura as its hooves stomped on the sky, and its jade-white horn that was like a curved saber fiercely collided with Hua Mabe and instantly flicked him flying up into the sky, causing his body to fly uncontrollable out of the combat ring. Bang! Hua Mabe fell to the ground. This strike had obviously caused him to suffer a heavy injury. His countenance was ghastly pale as he abruptly spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Then his spirits drooped, and he was unable to get up. He'd actually lost in a single move. Everyone in the spectating area couldn't help but let out shocked exclamations when they saw this scene, and they seemed to be worried about Hua Mabe's life, while seeming to not dare believe that Hua Mabe had actually lost so quickly. Amazing! You really didn't let me down. Brother Chen, you've already won my respect. Hua Mabe forcefully endured his injuries to stand up, and even though he'd suffered a serious injury, a wisp of delight had gushed into appearance on his face as he said with a burning gaze, After experiencing this battle, I've obtained numerous enlightenments. I'll surely defeat you in the All-Star meeting next year. Brother Chen, you better not slack off and allow me to catch up to you. All right? I'll be waiting for you. Xianxia nodded seriously. Even though Hua Mabe was madly addicted to battle, he was easygoing, heroic, and straightforward. An opponent like this was worthy of his respect. Moreover, if he had the chance, it wasn't bad to become friends with Hua Mabe. Hua Mabe cupped his fist from afar and didn't say anything further before carrying his sword on his back and leaving with a carefree expression. He actually wasn't the slightest bit reluctant to leave the Gold Lake meeting that hadn't ended. Perhaps in his heart, he'd already attained his goal this time. This competition truly allowed everyone present, including the Rebirth Realm cultivators that presided over the battles, to widen their horizons. The most brilliant scene was when Xianxia was pinned down within the waves, and then he slashed out with 2 Tao insight phenomenon in a single strike. This scene had truly shocked everyone present. In the entire cultivation world of the Darchu dynasty, one who was capable of comprehending Dao insight to such an extent at the initial stage of the Golden Core realm could be said to be extremely rare, like phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. For a time, everyone's single move chun she made on the combat ring had become mysterious in the eyes of many people, and they even vaguely guessed why young Master Zhou and the others would fight for the chance to battle Chun Shi. Because the strength Chun Shi revealed was indeed capable of causing countless experts to be unable to restrain the desire to do battle in their hearts. Subsequently, after Chun Shi defeated Hua Mabe, there was actually no participant in the entire Gold Lake meeting that ascended the combat ring to challenge him. They seemed to be waiting for young Master Zhou and the others to make a move. Perhaps, under these circumstances, only Golden Core realm experts of the young generation that were renowned since long ago like young Master Zhou and the others could suppress Chen Shi. In next to no time, the gazes of everyone moved away from the number 3 combat ring and shot towards the combat ring's young Master Zhou, and Yu, Wang Daoxu, and Su Chan were on. Chen Shi didn't waste time and seized this opportunity to hurriedly consume a few sky jade liquid pills to replenish his true essence. Since ascending the combat ring and battling until now, especially after fighting Jiyu and Hua Mabe, the true essence in his body had already been almost completely consumed. He couldn't do anything about it as compared to the other people. His cultivation at the initial stage of the Golden Core realm was truly pitiably weak, and if it wasn't for him conserving strength since the battles began, he'd probably be utterly incapable of persisting until now. Fortunately, after advancing to the Golden Core realm, so long as he possessed sufficient medicinal pills to support him, he utterly didn't have to worry that his true essence would dry up, because his true essence would recover instantly once he consumed the medicinal pills. Of course, successive battle didn't just consume true essence, and it also consumed his mental energy and the energy of his soul. If both his mind and body were exhausted, then it would greatly affect his combat strength. But all of this was incapable of affecting Chun Shi. He'd experienced countless fierce battles during these past few years, and his mental strength and will had been tempered to the point of being hard like steel long ago and was extremely solid. So the battles before him hadn't caused him to be uncomfortable in the slightest. Who's that fellow? He has a protruding mouth and a chin like an ape. His appearance is so wretched. Yet he's actually capable of fighting young Master Zhou until now. Damn it! If it wasn't for this person, young Master Zhou would have already obtained 41 successive victories long ago. The Sky Split Sword Sex and Chenyu and the Bright Ray Sex Wang Daoxu have already obtained 39 successive victories, whereas Su Chan has already obtained 40 successive victories and is about to start the 41st battle. If young Master Zhou is still unable to obtain victory, then he'll probably lose to Su Chan. Meanwhile, an uproar arose in the spectating area. Chun Shi was stunned and raised his eyes to look over. He saw that on the number 1 combat ring, young Master Zhou was in a fierce battle with an extremely thin cultivator. Energy surged and airflow swept out in all directions, and the situation of the battle was unusually intense. Isn't that fellow Su Chan's companion? Chun Shi noticed with a single glance that he'd seen the extremely thin cultivator when he registered for the Gold Lake meeting. At that time, this person had once ridiculed Mu Kuei, causing Chun Shi to have a rather deep impression of him. Very good. Lu Yubai, for the sake of allowing Su Chan to take first, you spared no pains to make a move and obstruct this young master. Your warlord's estate is really dirty. Young Master Zhou suddenly shouted out loudly. His figure was like a dragon as he soared in the sky, and his fingers opened up like claws before slapping directly towards Lu Yubai's head, and it was really fierce and ruthless. Hee, young Master Zhou, since others can challenge you, I can naturally challenge you as well. This matter isn't as complicated as you think. Lu Yubai laughed slyly as his skinny figure shook and seemed like a spinning top as he barely avoided young Master Zhou's fierce attack. But comparatively speaking, his strength was obviously slightly weaker, and he could only dodge ceaselessly under young Master Zhou's fierce suppression, yet was utterly incapable of counterattacking. Do you think Su Chan can obtain the first just like this? Young Master Zhou grunted with disdain, and then he shouted out loudly towards the spectating area. Lin Jun, stop Su Chan for me. Yes, young master. Swoosh. His voice hadn't finished sounding out when a figure had charged out from the spectating area. This person was tall and ferocious with a pair of fierce eyes. His skin revealed a brassy color, and he gave others a ferocious and unyielding feeling. He stepped repeatedly on the sky, causing cracking sounds to resound out in the sky, and it revealed his formidable cultivation as he arrived on Su Chan's combat ring in the blink of an eye. "Young Master Su, please provide me with your guidance." Lin Jun cupped his fist and spoke frankly. Su Chan's expression instantly darkened. He was only a single battle away from ascending the combat ring to trample on his enemy that had caused the annihilation of his clan. But unfortunately, he was disturbed at the critical moment. Moreover, he was able to discern that Lin Jun was an expert. Perhaps Lin Jun's strength was inferior to him, yet if Lin Jun delayed him wholeheartedly, then he would be unable to defeat Lin Jun in a short period of time. "Young Master Su, watch out." Lin Jun didn't hold back in the slightest as he stomped on the ground, and then he pounced towards Su Chan like a cheetah. Strong winds whistled in his surroundings. Su Chan didn't dare continue thinking when he sensed the ferocious energy that surged on Lin Jun, and he could only move forward to deal with his opponent. Instantly, Su Chan was already locked in battle with Lin Junchun. She couldn't help but shake his head when he saw this scene. Both young Master Zhou and Su Chan would probably lose the position of first, and Chun she couldn't help but chuckle when he thought of how all this was because of him. Actually, in the depths of his heart, he hoped even more that Su Chan would ascend his combat ring, as he wanted to kill Su Chan just like Su Chan wanted to kill him. This was a mortal enmity, and it was impossible to get rid of without killing the other person. And Qianyu, 41 successive victories. Wang Daoxiu, 41 successive victories. Right at this moment, the voice of the Rebirth Realm cultivators that presided over the battle sounded out from 2 combat rings at almost the exact same moment. This also meant that both of them had obtained the qualifications to be the first to challenge Chun Shi at the same time. Not to mention Chun Shi, even all the people present had probably never imagined such an outcome. However, even more out of everyone's expectations was that Qianyu actually shook his head and said to Chen Shi, "I saw your battle with Hua Mabe earlier. I feel that it will absolutely be difficult for me to obtain victory without utilizing some of my trump cards. So, I won't fight this battle." Chun Shi was stunned, and he didn't say anything. "Are you really not going to fight him?" asked Wang Daoxiu. It wouldn't be too late to compete with him during the All-Star meeting next year. And Qianyu's expression was unusually calm as he said indifferently, "The battles from before have already moved me greatly. My participation in the Gold Lake meeting is already worthwhile, so I intend to return to the sect and enter closed-door cultivation, and my strength will surely advance a step further when the All-Star meeting begins." As soon as he finished speaking, and Qianyu leaped off the combat ring and left by himself, and he completely disregarded the strange gazes everyone present shot at him. Could it be that this fellow is concealing his strength? Didn't you hear him say that he still has some trump cards? Perhaps he isn't willing to expose them now and wants to utilize them during the All-Star meeting. Humph. He obviously knows he's inferior to Chun Shi, so he's avoiding the battle and fleeing. It doesn't seem like that, and Qianyu is the top expert in the younger generation of the Sky-Split Sword sect. There's surely a deep meaning behind why he acted in this way. But it's a pity, we won't be able to witness his peerless demeanor in the Gold Lake meeting anymore. Everyone present discussed animatedly. Hua Mabe leaving with a carefree expression after losing earlier was easy to understand, whereas Qianyu had utterly not fought Chun Shi before deciding to leave, and it seemed to be too strange. "Miss Zhen, I've already acted according to your instructions. You ought to tell me the answer now, right?" And Qianyu arrived at the spectating area and laughed bitterly as he looked at Zhen Luqing. The pressure upon him was extremely great as well when facing the discussions of everyone. Yiqing was stunned and instantly came to an understanding, and Qianyu's actions of giving up the battle was actually affected by Zhen Luqing. What exactly is this woman doing? Yiqing quickly obtained an answer to her question. Zhen Luqing didn't have the intention of concealing anything and said directly, "Chun Shi was still conserving almost half his strength in that strike that defeated Hua Mabe earlier. Do you think that your cultivation is capable of resisting it if he exerts it with his full strength? And Xianyu was slightly unconvinced at the beginning. After all, he'd utterly not taken Xianxia seriously in his heart earlier, and he'd only started to take Xianxia seriously in the Gold Lake meeting today. But it was merely taking Xianxia seriously. How could he be convinced if someone said Xianxia surpassed him firmly? But after that, when he carefully pondered about the scenes of the battle between Xianxia and Hua Mabe, a layer of tiny beads of sweat instantly suffused his forehead, and his expression became slightly heavy. If that sword strike were to be executed with his full strength, and Xianyu's expression was exceedingly heavy. His brows were knit tightly as if he'd encountered an extremely great problem, and he even had the feeling of being unable to catch his breath. After a long time, he gritted his teeth and said, I admit that sword strike was formidable indeed, but if I utilize some trump cards, it isn't something that's impossible to resist. What about after you resist it? Zhen Luqing seemed to have expected he would answer in this way since long ago, and she asked without thinking. And Xianyu was stunned. His entire body seemed as if it had lost all support, and his spirits instantly became dispirited. Right, even if I can block this strike, there's also the second, the third. How long can I resist for? Can Xianxia execute a second strike? Of course he can. He was capable of conserving energy even when he defeated Hua Mabe, so how could he not be capable to executing a second strike? Terrifying. This kid is terrifying indeed. He's only at the initial stage of the Golden Core realm, yet is still capable of conserving energy after experiencing a few tens of battles. Where's the true limit of his strength? And Xianyu's mind was in turmoil, and he said bitterly after a long time, Miss Zhen has helped me greatly this time, otherwise, I'm afraid I'll be unable to escape the outcome of losing. Even though he spoke in this way, his voice revealed unwillingness. Just think about it, if someone was asked to admit they were inferior to another with a few words, anyone would probably feel unwilling in their hearts. Zhen Luqing smiled lightly and said, I know you wouldn't be willing. Look, Wang Daoshu is about to challenge Xianxia. Your strength is roughly equal to him, so perhaps you'll completely change your way of thinking after this battle ends. And Xianyu was stunned, and then he looked towards the number 3 combat ring. At this moment, the gazes of most of the people present had already shot towards the number 3 combat ring, and Wang Daoshu was already standing on the combat ring and stood in confrontation with Xianxia from far away. Wang Daoshu was the disciple of the ancient sect that was renowned in the Central Plains, the Bright Ray sect. His natural talent was extraordinary, his strength formidable, and he'd obtained an extremely great reputation in the Central Plains cultivation world at a young age. At this moment, this tall young man wore a glowing feather hat with shoes that had cloud markings and 7 stars on them, and he stood on the combat ring with an aloof bearing and in a poised and dignified manner, so he naturally drew the gazes of countless people. Clang! A sword light shot into the sky from Wang Daoshu's back, and bright light directly connected with the skyline and ran through the heavens and the earth, causing it to be gorgeous and imposing. This sword was obviously a top-grade Earth-rank magic treasure. The body of the sword was bright like water, with countless bright cloud talisman markings inscribed on it, and it was like a multicolored surging clouds that was cut off from the horizon, revealing strands of cold and fierce aura amidst its magnificence. Brother Chun, please provide me with your guidance. Wang Daoshu stood with his sword in his hand while he spoke with a tone that revealed extremely strong confidence, and the essence, energy, and spirit in his entire body condensed to a high degree, causing him to instantly attain his most optimal state. This was an ability required of a sword cultivator. As the Tao of a sword cultivator pressed forward with indomitable spirit and slaughtered all obstacles that blocked oneself. Xianxia nodded. Make your move. Sky-rending ray. Once Wang Daoshu made a move, he didn't hesitate in the slightest and attacked directly, causing his sword to spray out with bright lights that instantly swept out to form numerous rosy sword lights in the sky, and it was like numerous waves of snowstorms that were extremely dazzling as they swept towards Xianxia. Bang! The snowstorm exploded apart as the sword chi within it dispersed, and Xianxia, who wore azure clothes, wasn't injured in the slightest. Wang Daoshu's attack was slashed into nothingness by his Sun Sword of Wind. Bright Ray Allure. Wan Daoshu seemed to be not surprised in the slightest. His figure flashed in the sky as he moved along the layout of the Big Dipper, and then a sword light tore through the sky and condensed numerous delicate and charming flowers that seemed to be constructed from rosy clouds. Under the sunlight, they were suffused with a glassy seven-colored dazzling light as they revolved slowly and emitted clear howls in the sky. These bright ray flowers transformed into flowing lights that covered the sky as they surged towards Xianxia from all directions. Brother Wang, bring out your true strength. Xianxia took a step forward as he casually swung out the talisman armament, causing a large patch of bright ray flowers to be shattered, and the remaining strength of the sword chi forced its way through and sliced the sky to the point it shattered like cotton, revealing its extremely fierce and terrifying sharpness. All right, since it's like this, I won't conceal my strength any longer. Wang Daoshu's eyes abruptly shot out a ball of bright light as he laughed heartily, and then he formed a sword seal with his right hand before shocking true essence fluctuations spread out from him. Rumble! An extremely dazzling vast and mighty sea of clouds gushed out with a bang, and there were numerous expanses of rosy clouds that probably numbered in the billion. Moreover, these rosy clouds were formed from strands of sharp sword chi that were interwoven together and condensed into a sea of clouds. Sword chi charged into the sky while emitting a bright glow. Such a scene caused even the heavens and earth, sun and moon, to be thrown into a shade. Under Xianxia's pressure, Wan Daoshu had already utilized a killer move at the start of the battle. He had no other choice. It was fine before he fought Xianxia. Yet once he did, Wang Daoshu finally felt the pressure Xianxia brought upon him. Every single strike of Xianxia seemed extremely simple and without any aura of battle, yet it was these type of light and simple attacks that were the most terrifying. One wouldn't know when one's enemy wouldn't attack suddenly, or when one's opponent would grab onto one's flaws and use it to attack violently. If sword cultivators were divided into types, then some were lone wolves that moved about freely and bore patiently before striking ruthlessly. Some were venomous snakes that were hiding in the shadows, and they killed on attack. Some were like fierce tigers that were ferocious and overbearing with peerless, imposing auras. Xianxia was like a hunter that was familiar with the law of the jungle, and no matter how cunning a wolf was, how vicious a venomous snake was, or how ferocious a tiger was, all of them were entirely incapable of escaping his control. Wang Daoshu had never sensed this type of pressure that existed invisibly from any Golden Core realm cultivator, and today was a first. So he didn't hesitate in the slightest to execute his trump card and strive to turn around the situation with a single strike, so that he would be able to obtain an absolute advantage and obtain the final victory through it. Endless Bright Ray. This is Wang Daoshu's trump card. It contains the Cloud Ray Dao insight that's like lightning when converged and like wind when dispersed, and between its sudden convergence and dispersion, it's like a spider web that conceals killing intent in every inch. So long as one is enveloped by it, one would surely suffer a heavy injury. This move is also one of the most formidable trump cards in the Bright Ray Sex Dao grade martial technique, Bright Ray Dual Sky Sword. Why would he execute it at the beginning of the battle? In the spectating area, and Qianyu's eyes were staring wide open, and he was slightly unable to wrap his head around what Wang Daoshu was thinking. As one of Wang Daoshu's most intimate friends, he knew that Wang Daoshu's battle style was one that gradually pursued his opponent and infiltrated silently, causing his opponents to be forced into a hopeless situation by him without noticing it. And a situation like this where he utilized a trump card at the beginning was extremely rare. Zhen Luqing smiled lightly yet didn't enlighten him. Some things required the outcome of the battle to be decided before one would understand everything, and it made no difference no matter how much another guided and helped. Bang! 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 The sea of clouds emitted steam as they covered the surroundings, causing the entire combat ring to be beneath rolling vast sword chi, and the combat ring emitted muffled sounds of collisions that was like the sound of drums as it shook without end. On the other hand, Xianxia was instead surrounded in the center of this sea of clouds, and when looked at from afar, the boundless rosy clouds surrounded and pressed down onto him from all directions as if they wanted to swallow him. Xianxia suddenly swung up the talisman armament in his hand when facing this attack that covered the heavens and the earth. All the spectators were rather baffled, as they didn't know why Xianxia didn't execute a fierce attack at this critical moment and escape the encirclement of the sea of clouds. After all, those rosy clouds were condensed from strands of sharp sword chi, and if he continued delaying like this, then the attacks he would suffer would surely be like a storm that was impossible to avoid. Whoosh, 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 swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A wave of faint sounds of the wind rose abruptly and were like the wails of ghosts and spirits as they swept through the heavens and the earth, and the wave of sound shook the eardrums of everyone present to the point they felt a piercing pain. Rumble. Only now did everyone clearly see that a whirlwind that revolved madly had suddenly appeared around Xianxia, and it connected straight into the skyline. The energy that was like a whirlwind seemed material and revealed a terrifying aura that crushed, tore apart, and destroyed everything as it blasted out towards the surroundings. Under the fury of this whirlwind, the roiling sea of clouds was torn apart like cotton to transform into strands that were swept away by the whirlwind. A whirlwind that scattered the clouds. You're actually strong enough to easily destroy my trump card. Wang Daoshu took a few tens of heavy steps in retreat as a wisp of shock suffused his face, and then it returned to normal. Receive a move of mine as well, Heavenblaze Inferno. While maintaining his strength at around 60%, Xianxia's body flew into the sky as translucent flames abruptly gushed out from the talisman armament in his hand, and then boundless waves of flame blasted out in all directions. The scene was like the scene of an erupting volcano, with lava that was like dragons that penetrated everything, and it instantly covered the entire combat ring. These flames were formed from sword chi and contained the violent and ruthless fire Dao insight. If one were to look carefully, one would notice that this move was unusually similar to the endless bright ray Wang Daoshu had just executed. But there were still some slight differences. If it was said that Wang Daoshu's sword chi was like a surging sea of clouds, then Xianxia's sword chi at this moment was like a flood, a vast and mighty flood of a sea of flames. This was a move Xianxia was suddenly inspired to create, and it could be considered to be creative study and application. It was already too late to dodge, so Wang Daoshu circulated his entire true essence right away to condense a sword barrier that separated himself from his surroundings. However, when the sea of flames flooded over, he finally knew how terrifying its strength was. Bang! 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 Instantly, even Wang Daoshu himself didn't know how many attacks he'd suffered, and the sword barrier was on the verge of collapse. Shit! It won't hold on for much longer. No matter how strong its defensive capability was, it was incapable of bearing this attack that surged without end, and there would always be a time when dripping water would wear through a stone. At this moment, Wang Daoshu knew that he'd made a fatal mistake earlier, and that was that he shouldn't have taken a passive position of defense. Bright Ray. Wang Daoshu's reaction was extremely swift as well, and he instantly decided to change defense into offense and break through the tight encirclement. But would Xianxia give him the opportunity? The sword chi flood moved even more densely and ferociously, forcing him to have no choice but to support his defense with all his strength, and his countenance gradually became pale. Bang! The sword barrier was shattered into pieces. When they saw the sea of flames was about to swallow Wang Daoshu, even the crowd of spectators in the spectating area revealed expressions of being unable to watch. Right at this moment, the entire sea of flames vanished without a trace as if it had evaporated into thin air, and it revealed Xianxia's extremely precise control of his strength. I've actually lost. Wang Daoshu had a dazed expression as he muttered without end. The top Golden Core realm cultivator in the younger generation of the Bright Ray sect, Wang Daoshu, had lost. A short period of silence appeared in the spectating area. Then it was replaced with various cries of shock, and the faces of everyone were covered in shock. It was too unexpected. Wang Daoshu had actually lost in only 3 moves. As far as the spectators were concerned, this was simply an unbelievable thing. What do you think now? Zhen Luqing asked. Truthfully speaking, even though she'd already expected she would be able to win since long ago. Yet when she saw how he so directly defeated Wang Daoshu with her own eyes, she couldn't help but exclaim with admiration in her heart. And Chen stayed silent for a long time before nodding. He's extremely strong indeed. I'm inferior to him. Zhen Luqing said with a smile. You don't have to be dejected. According to your strength, Ranking in the top 100 of the All-Star meeting shouldn't be difficult. If your luck is good, it's even possible for you to rank in the top 50. And Xianyu laughed bitterly. You don't have to console me. If I couldn't endure a setback like this, then I'd have lived until now in vain. He paused for a moment, then asked suddenly, what about him? The him he spoke of naturally pointed towards Xianxia. Zhen Luqing was able to discern in, and she pondered for a moment before smiling as she shook her head. Who knows? After all, even my Mistwater Pavilion's stellar aquamirror arts is incapable of deducing his fate. So I can't make an improper judgment of him. If it's according to me, Xianxia will surely be able to be ranked in the top 10 and create a miracle that attracts the attention of everyone in the world. Yiqing smiled happily as she spoke from nearby, and her clear eyes were filled with ripples of extraordinary splendor. Zhen Luqing and Xianyu glanced at each other before falling silent. Just as Zhen Luqing had said earlier, Xianxia's fate was concealed by the workings of the heavens, and coupled with the strength he revealed now, it might really be possible for him to obtain a shocking achievement in the All-Star meeting. You're extremely formidable. Miss Zhen had once told me that I wasn't a match for you when I ascended the combat ring earlier, but I didn't believe it at that time. Now it would seem like I was wrong. Wang Daoshu smiled on the combat ring, and his expression was slightly dejected. Chen-Shi thought for a while and said, You've conserved a lot of strength. If you exerted your full strength, then perhaps the battle would be a different situation. Wang Daoshu laughed bitterly without end and asked a question in reply. Didn't you conserve your strength as well? In the end, I would still suffer defeat, so why not lose readily like I did now? At least I can accept it. Chen-Shi went silent. I truly hope I don't encounter you in the All-Star meeting. Farewell. Wang Daoshu sighed with emotion before turning around and leaping off the combat ring, and he quickly vanished in the spectating area. No one paid attention to Wang Daoshu's departure. At this moment, the gazes of practically everyone had converged onto Xianxia, and their eyes contained shock, reverence, and admiration as they looked at that figure that was tall and straight like a spear. The Northern Barbaric Lands Zenith Sex Perfection Stage Golden Core Realm Body Refinement Cultivator GU. The Eastern Seas Jade Pool Celestial Isles Perfection Stage Golden Core Realm Cultivator Hua Mabe. The top expert in the younger generation of the Central Plains Bright Ray Sect, Wang Daoshu. These three people were all formidable existences that couldn't be defeated to most of the people present. However, just moments ago, all of them had lost at the hands of Xianxia, an initial stage Golden Core Realm cultivator from the Southern Territory that wasn't well known. Who had expected this would happen before this? It was precisely because no one expected it that the shock it created struck the heart, and they couldn't help but feel admiration. Young Master Zhou's appearance broke this sort of silence. He's long since obtained 41 successive victories during the battle between Xianxia and Wang Daoshu. At this moment, he stood beneath the combat ring while fanning the jade fan in his hand, and he stared at Xianxia for a long time before laughing abruptly. Not bad. Your strength has successively exceeded my expectations, and only battling an opponent like you is a joy of life. As he spoke, he withdrew the palm-sized Dragon Soul jade pendant and tossed it over. According to the bet earlier, Wang Daoshu has lost, so this Dragon Soul jade pendant belongs to you. Quickly absorb the Dragon Soul and vital blood within it, and quickly recover your strength. Then have a battle with me. Xianxia raised his hand to catch the Dragon Soul jade pendant, and he was about to think of some words to return this jade pendant back to young Master Zhou. However, as soon as this jade pendant entered into his hand, he felt the vital energy and blood in his entire body surge and flowed strongly through his entire body, and it seemed to wish for nothing more than to effuse out of his body and swallow this jade pendant. This jade pendant seems to have an extremely great benefit towards body refiners. Right, the dragon soul and vital energy contain the energy of a dragon. And isn't it a supreme divine medicine to strengthen the body? If I rely on the dragon soul and vital blood in within it, and with the assistance of the baleful divine water, it will surely be able to allow my body refinement cultivation to charge into the golden core realm. Xianxi's heart shook and he felt slightly hesitant, and then he said to young Master Zhou right away, I'll take this jade pendant, and I'll surely repay you in the future. Young Master Zhou waved his hand. What repayments? A loss is a loss. This thing belongs to you, and we don't owe each other anything. I'm not willing to allow someone to owe me a favor because of this. Xianxia was stunned and knew that no matter what he said, young Master Zhou would be unwilling to listen to it. So he didn't mention this anymore. Xianxia, I challenge you. The nearby Su Chan spoke out abruptly, as he'd already arrived here before young Master Zhou and had always been looking on coldly from the sidelines. Young Master Zhou frowned and said unhappily, Su Chan, I haven't gotten even with you for using tricks to obstruct me earlier, yet you want to go ahead of me now? Could it be that you really think I don't dare bash you? Humph. This is the Gold Lake meeting, and everyone has the qualifications to challenge Xianxia. Why would I obstruct you? Of course, I detest it if someone interferes when I challenge Xianxia. Su Chan spoke coldly. Good. Very good. It's the first time that you, Su Chan, dared speak to me like this. Young Master Zhou laughed loudly, yet his voice was icy cold to the extreme. How about we play together first? Do you dare? Su Chan was stunned and was slightly hesitant. If it was any ordinary time, he would have naturally agreed long ago, and he would utterly not care who young Master Zhou was. But it was different now. Trampling upon Xianxia on the combat ring and embarrassing Xianxia before everyone could be said to be a knot in his heart. And he eagerly looked forward to realizing it as soon as possible. Now, he finally awaited a chance with great difficulty, and he wasn't willing to lose this chance because of other unimportant things. What? You don't dare? Young Master Zhou said with disdain. Right? A fellow that only uses his mouth like you will only resort to despicable means and utterly wouldn't have the courage to fight. You? Su Chan's eyes squinted. No matter how good a person was, the person would surely have a temper, not to mention he'd never felt afraid of young Master Zhou. Instantly, he had the impulse to thrash young Master Zhou. What? I asked you if you dare or not. Young Master Zhou sneered. Fight! 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 Everyone in the spectating area instantly became extremely excited when they saw young Master Zhou and Su Chan were having a confrontation, and they shouted out in unison. The sounds of thousands of people shouting was like a thunderclap, and it carried a vast and mighty aura like that of two armies battling each other amidst thousands upon thousands of horses and soldiers. No matter how emotionless a person was, the person's blood would probably be stimulated to a boil, and his battle intent would surge. With Su Chan's cultivation, his mind would naturally not be affected by this wave of sounds. But if he were to refuse young Master Zhou under the gazes of everyone present, then he'd probably have no face to stand up in the cultivation world. Su Chan glanced coldly at Xianxia and seemed to be saying, Just you wait, I'll deal with you later. And then he turned around to look at young Master Zhou and said, All right, so be it. I've long since wanted to experience the ultimate techniques of Silken City's Zhou clan. Since I have this opportunity today, I can't let it slip by. How could Xianxia be terrified by this gaze? Actually, he felt extremely regretful in his heart as well. If it wasn't for young Master Zhou's interference, he'd probably already be trampling on Su Chan now, right? Unfortunately, the situation before him couldn't move according to Xianxia's will, and he could only think about it in his mind. At this moment, the battle between Su Chan and young Master Zhou that was about to begin had already become the center of attention in the Gold Lake meeting, and every single person held their breaths and stared their eyes wide open as they were deeply afraid of missing the slightest detail. Su Chan, return to the warlord's estate with me. However, right when the battle would break out at any moment, a voice that was like a thunderclap rumbled from the horizon, and it was indifferent and calm, yet revealed an overbearing aura that caused one's heart to tremble. No matter what their cultivations were, everyone present felt horrified and their heart palpitated when they heard this voice. A voice like thunder that deterred the world. Everyone raised their heads and saw a tall and stalwart figure standing in the distant horizon, while his entire body bathed in dazzling divine light that caused him to seem like a dazzling sun. Even though he had his back towards everyone, yet the terrifying aura that gushed out from him shook the heavens and the earth as he looked down upon the world, and he caused one to feel as if they were in a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, and the feeling of infinite despair and horror arose in one's heart when looking at him from afar. The warlord, Huangfu Taiwu. Instantly, a name flashed past the minds of everyone, and only the warlord that was brave and skillful in warfare, and whose might was supreme in the world, could possess such a terrifying aura. What dense killing intent! How many bloody battles would one need to experience before being able to effuse such a terrifying aura? She felt suffocated as well when he saw the stalwart figure, and he felt extremely shocked in his heart. Master! Su Chan was stunned, and then he turned around to glance deeply at Chen, she before leaving the combat ring, resolutely to flash towards the stalwart figure. The words of the warlord, Huangfu Taiwu, were a supreme decree that he didn't dare disobey. Damn it! He left before we fought. Even though young Master Zhou was extremely fearful of that stalwart figure, yet he was an arrogant and unyielding person, so he couldn't help but mutter in a low voice, "You little mischievous kid, you're still so disrespectful." Right at this moment, another voice sounded out. It was aged, warm, and caused one to feel as if they were bathing in spring breeze. Instantly, the horrifying killing intent that enveloped the heavens and the earth was wiped away, causing everyone present to heave a sigh of relief in their hearts. After that, a wisp of shock arose in the hearts of everyone. Who was actually be able to wipe away the aura emitted by the warlord Huangfu Taiwu? Why did this old fellow not stay nicely at home and come here as well? Young Master Zhou was like a mouse that saw a cat, and he cried out in fear before fleeing towards the distance with a speed so swift, he'd flashed out 3 kilometers in an instant. A scene that caused everyone's scalps to go numb appeared. An aged hand that was covered in wrinkles and creases unexpectedly stretched out from the sky and instantly captured young Master Zhou. The hand that was covered in wrinkles and creases tore through the sky in a seemingly slow speed while not carrying the slightest aura of life, yet it instantly caught the clothes on young Master Zhou's back, and no matter how he struggled, he was incapable of breaking free. It felt like an eagle capturing a chick. Young Master Zhou, whose strength belonged to the top ranks amongst those of the same generation, actually didn't have the slightest room to resist before that hand. Hiss! Everyone gasped in their hearts as they knew that a peerless expert that wasn't the slightest bit inferior to the warlord, Huangfu Taiwu, had arrived. Old fellow, cough, cough. Quickly loosen your grip. Do you want to choke me to death? Young Master Zhou cried out loudly in a sorry state, and he didn't have the slightest graceful bearing from before. He instead seemed like a naughty child that was caught by his elder, and it caused everyone to be unable to resist from being amused. You impolite kid, do you still treat me as your great-grandfather? Accompanying this voice was a gaunt old man that stepped out from the sky and instantly appeared in everyone's field of vision. He wore a black long gown while leaning on a cane in his hand. His hair was white like snow with a face covered in wrinkles, and his eyes seemed to have experienced countless years, yet were bright and deep, causing one to not dare stare at him. The old man's appearance and dressing was extremely ordinary, like an old man that tended to the fields, yet if carefully looked at, not a single person was capable of determining his strength. His body seemed as if it was enveloped in a layer of mist that was deep, vast, indifferent, and difficult to understand. Even if one's gaze only observed him for a short moment, one's soul would fall into a boundless abyss that caused one's soul to fall into a daze. Some people present who didn't have sufficient strengths even revealed demented expressions as if they were in a dreamlike state. Breaking through space with a stretch of his hand. He has obviously grasped the spatial Tao insight to perfection. This person's strength is surely at the 6th level of the earthly immortal realm or above. Chun Shi's eyes narrowed. He naturally wouldn't have his mind dazed by the old man's aura, yet he was rather shocked in his heart. The warlord Huangfu Taiwu had just appeared, and then another old man with unfathomable strength had arrived. One was Su Chan's master, whereas the other was young Master Zhou's great-grandfather, and both of their cultivations were at the peak ranks in this world. Why have they made an appearance in unison? Perhaps they'd already come since the Gold Lake meeting began, but they'd always been hiding in the shadows? Chun Shi was surprised and doubtful in his heart. Little brat, quickly return to the clan with me. You've probably played enough after sneaking out this time. There's still another year before the all-star meeting. During this time, you must obediently stay in the clan and cultivate with concentration. I'll be keeping an eye on you, so don't dream of escaping again." As the old man spoke, he'd already loosened the grip of his hand that grabbed on to young Master Zhou. But with his strength, he didn't have to worry about young Master Zhou escaping under his watch. "Why?" Young Master Zhou frowned. "So that you don't embarrass me in the all-star meeting." The old man glared at him, and with a wave of his hand, a divine light gushed out into appearance before dispersing. Young Master Zhou's entire body instantly vanished without a trace, and it was unknown where the old man put him. The warlord Huangfu Taiwu's stalwart body had always been standing in the extremely distant horizon, and he didn't turn around even when the old man arrived. At this moment, he spoke coldly with a voice that was like a thunderclap that surged toward the surroundings. "Zhou Xiantong, this grandson of yours should be properly disciplined indeed. He's utterly unruly and will probably die early." As soon as he finished speaking, Huangfu Taiwu flicked his sleeve and brought along Su Chan, who was by his side, to tear open the space before instantly vanishing into thin air, and he only left behind his voice that was like a thunderclap as it reverberated in the heavens and the earth. "What the hell? You even cursed this little brat of my clan? If I knew earlier, I'd have allowed him to fiercely thrash your disciple. Truly outrageous." The old man rolled his eyelids as he grunted coldly with disdain, and his words didn't show the slightest respect to Huangfu Taiwu and seemed to be rather unyielding and arrogant. Everyone was greatly astonished when they heard this. Only this old ancestor of the Zhou clan would dare speak in this way. "Kid, this little brat seems to have a good impression of you. Since it's like this, I'll kindly give you a warning. If you feel your strength isn't enough, then don't head to Silken City to participate in the all-star meeting." Before the old man left, he suddenly turned around to look at Xianxia, and then he slightly sized Xianxia up and couldn't help but shake his head. After that, he said some baffling things before flying off, and he vanished without a trace in the blink of an eye. Xianxia was stunned and frowned endlessly. He didn't think that this ancestor of the Zhou clan would joke with him, and since the old man had said this, there was surely deep meaning behind it. It wasn't just Xianxia. Everyone present was stunned by these words. What does it mean? Could it be that Xianxia who defeated Jiyu, Hua Mabe, and Wang Daoshu actually doesn't possess the qualifications to participate in the all-star meeting? Everyone was unable to wrap their heads around it, so they didn't continue thinking about it. Even though the appearance of the warlord, Huangfu Taiwu, and the Zhou clan ancestor, Zhou Xiantong, was only brief, it caused the atmosphere in the Gold Lake meeting to inexplicably become much heavier. Just think about it. Two peak experts in the world had appeared in unison at the Gold Lake meeting, and they took Su Chan and young Master Zhou away before the competition ended. No matter who his was, they couldn't help but guess in their hearts. Could it be that a great event more important than the Gold Lake meeting has occurred? Moreover, along with the departure of Su Chan and young Master Zhou, amongst the hot candidates in the Gold Lake meeting, only Xianxia, who'd just risen up, remained. Even though there were many more experts, yet compared to Su Chan and young Master Zhou, they seemed to be much duller, and even if the Gold Lake meeting continued, it seemed that it wouldn't be as brilliant as before. Sure enough, it was as everyone had expected. The following battles were indeed without merit and didn't have any brilliant points. Only Xianxia's battles were still capable of drawing the attention of some gazes. Xianxia did indeed not disappoint the people present, and he obtained successive victories in the following battles. Moreover, he'd become the one cultivator that obtained 100 successive victories in the Gold Lake meeting this time. Similarly, Xianxia had also become the first cultivator of the Southern Territory to this day that obtained 100 successive victories in the Gold Lake meeting, and its significance was extraordinary. After all, the Southern Territory had been weak for a long time, and its strength as a whole was far inferior to the other territories of the Darchu dynasty. In the previous Gold Lake meetings, there wasn't a single cultivator of the Southern Territory that had obtained 100 successive victories. Xianxia's appearance had undoubtedly broken this situation that hadn't changed for many years and created a completely new situation. so its significance was so great that it was sufficient to be recorded in the history of the Southern Territories' cultivation world. The facts were indeed so. On the same day that the Gold Lake meeting ended, this news swiftly spread into the cultivation world of the Southern Territory, causing a great stir, and practically every city in the Southern Territory was fervently discussing a single name, Xianxia. When this young man from the remote Pine Mist City obtained first place in the Hidden Dragon rankings a few years ago, his name had already shaken the entire Southern Territory, causing him to be well-renowned to the point of being known by every household. Now he'd even defeated numerous outstanding experts in the Gold Lake meeting that gathered the geniuses of the younger generation from all over the Darchu dynasty to become the one and only cultivator that obtained the title of achieving 100 successive victories. This great honor and achievement that was similar to creating history caused the entire Southern Territories cultivation world to fall into shock. After the shock came happiness and inspiration. This was Xianxia's honor and was similarly the honor of the entire Southern Territories cultivation world. As a cultivator of the Southern Territory, every single person felt proud for Xianxia and felt honored because of him. Even enemies that had disagreements with Xianxia, like the Dragon Lake City's Xie clan's second young master, Xie, couldn't help but feel admiration and be extremely astonished when he found out about this. It was even to the extent that for the sake of showing he was very familiar with Xianxia, he bragged when he met others. I battled Xianxia once all those years ago. Even though I lost, it's fine, since he's Xianxia. He's a person that's good at everything, but the only thing bad about him is he's too busy, and I can't even find him to have a drink. He had an appearance as if he was rather familiar with Xianxia, causing his group of friends to be extremely envious and shout that he must bring them to meet Xianxia if he had the chance. Second young Master Xie, whose vanity had obtained satisfaction, naturally agreed readily, yet he sighed endlessly in his heart. Since he thrashed me that day, I haven't fucking seen him for many years. Yet all of you want to see him? Dream on. Dragon Lake City, Immortal Assembling Pavilion. Du Qingxi, Duanmu, and Song Lin were gathered here drinking wine as they chatted. Of course, they were mostly chatting about Xianxia. This fellow is too mean. He didn't even bid farewell to us when he left the Southern Territory to head to the Central Plains. I'll surely get him wasted if I see him again. Duanmu grumbled. See him again? Song Lin shook his head and sighed. Presently, he has already obtained 100 successive victories in the Gold Lake meeting, and his strength is already sufficient to be ranked in the top 100 of the All-Star meeting. He's probably heading towards Silken City now to prepare for the All-Star meeting. Meeting him again is easier said than done. Duanmu went silent. Actually, he knew in his heart as well that Xianxia couldn't be compared to the past now, as Xianxia's strength was superb to the point of being able to be called a top expert in the younger generation in the entire Darchu dynasty. A person like Xianxia was bound to go higher and higher, and Xianxia wouldn't lay dormant in a small pool and live listlessly for his entire lifetime. Waves of bustling and clamorous noise came from outside the window, and the guests seated within were discussing Xianxia's past deeds as well. Actually, something related to Xianxia had occurred in this Immortal Assembling Pavilion as well. At that time, Xianxia had a disagreement with the Xie clan's second young master, Xie, because of the siblings Mu Yao and Mu Wenfei. So he underwent 3 battles in the combat ring within the pavilion. It was precisely after that battle that the name of Xianxia's, who just arrived in Dragon Lake City, was spread throughout the entire Dragon Lake City overnight. Presently, they were revisiting an old place, yet their old friend was far away in another city. As Xianxia's few good friends, Duanmu, Song Lin, and Du Qingxi sighed considerably with emotion in their hearts. Right? I heard your father has betrothed you? Duanmu suddenly raised his head to look at Du Qingxi. Du Qingxi was silent since the beginning. She was silently drinking wine as her thoughts spun about, and what she was thinking about was a mystery. She was stunned briefly when she heard this, and they said indifferently, I won't get married. Her voice was calm, yet revealed a resolute and decisive feeling. Could it be that you're still dreaming that Xianxia will return and marry you? Duanmu laughed as he cast a wink at her. However, this joke of his caused Du Qingxi's expression to dim down greatly, and her extremely beautiful face unintentionally revealed a trace of sorrow that was simply heartbreaking. Duanmu instantly knew that he'd said something wrong, and he hurriedly consoled. It's no big deal. If you want to see him, then let's make a trip to Silken City when the All-Star meeting begins. Right? Truthfully speaking, I haven't gone to the capital, Silken City, in my entire lifetime. We can seize this opportunity to go look around. Song Lin hurriedly nodded as well. Du Qingxi's eyes lit up, and a wisp of vitality suffused her beautiful face. Really? Duanmu and Song Lin glanced at each other before nodding in unison. All right, then I'll go home first. We'll leave in a few days. The corners of Du Qingxi's mouth held a smile. She was in high spirits as she turned around and left, and she was even muttering, "Oh, Silken City is extremely far from here. What should I bring along? Oh, right, I'll first pick up some things for Xianxia. He seems to be extremely fond of drinking wine. My father just happens to have a bottle of 100-year-old wine. Hey, the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect has convened a grand gathering for 7 days to celebrate for Chun, she who's far away in the Central Plains. At that time, all the various powers of Dragon Lake City will be going to participate. Are you going?" Duanmu shouted. "No. In any case, I won't be able to see Xianxia, so it's really boring even if I go." Du Qingxi didn't even turn around as she replied swiftly. After she decided to head to Silken City, she entirely seemed as if she'd obtained new life, causing her to be radiating joy and wearing a smile as she hummed an unknown tune, and she moved with swift footsteps. She simply seemed like a young girl that had awakened to love, causing Duanmu and Song Lin to be dumbstruck by the sight. Is this the power of love? Duanmu spoke with astonishment. Brother Duanmu, we cultivators must not fall in love. Love is the strongest imperceptible dagger. It's an inner demon, a monster, a tribulation. Song Lin shook his head as he spoke. Fuck off. You haven't even had a woman. What the fuck do you know about love? Duanmu kicked Song Lin. Pine Mist City, Chun Clan. Presently, the Chun Clan estate had already been expanded by almost 10 times, with rows upon rows of pavilions with vines hanging from their eaves and were nestled under the shade of green pine trees, and small bridges and flowing water winding around artificial mountains could be seen everywhere. There were blue lakes that glimmered while flying cranes fluttered about above at the center, and a group of mountains surrounding it from the outside. It was a picturesque scene like a paradise, and it was a feast for the eyes. Even the servants and maidservants of the Chun clan wore embroidered clothes and were filled with spirit, causing the atmosphere here to be different from other clans. Presently, almost all the cultivators in Pine Mist City knew that if it was in terms of how solid and firm the estate was, how deep the hidden resources and reserves were, or how formidable the clan was, then the Chun clan was undoubtedly number one. This sort of tremendous change only occurred in a short few months of time, and the reason was extremely simple. Presently, the Chun clan controlled all the resources in the entire depths of the southern barbaric mountain range. The value of the spirit veins, ores, materials, and herbs in the 50,000 kilometers area of the mountain range was extremely shocking, and it provided an endless supply of wealth that surged like flowing water to the Chun clan. Under the support of such deep wealth, it was impossible for the Chun clan not to rise, even if it didn't want to. Presently, it wasn't just the merchants in Pine Mist City. Even the trading companies of the other great cities in the Southern Territory had come over to negotiate business and seek cooperation with the Chun clan. For example, the Treasure Heaven Pavilion, whose force covered the entire Darchu dynasty, had even signed a long-term cooperation agreement with the Chun clan. The Chun clan would provide various materials, whereas the Treasure Heaven Pavilion would send various excellent equipment and magic treasures to the Chun clan instead. Could be said that the current Chun clan was earning wealth by doing nothing. Once the clan became wealthy, the power of the clan rose steadily at a tremendous pace as well. Now the Chun clan possessed 10,000 disciples that didn't share the Chun surname. Amongst these 10,000 disciples, 3,000 elite disciples were responsible for protecting the Chun clan, whereas the other 7,000 disciples looked after and operated the various businesses of the Chun clan. Of course, the cultivations of these disciples that didn't share the Chun surname weren't high, and out of consideration for the Chun clan's future development, Chun Hao had already entrusted people with the task of recruiting a batch of young children that possessed optimum natural talents, comprehension ability, and loyalty from all over. The number required was 300, and he intended to exhaust great energy and wealth to foster these young children into the central force of the Chun clan in the future. Even though the Chun clan didn't have any experts now, the Wandering Cloud Sword sect would send over some Rebirth Realm elders every 3 months to protect the Chun clan and deter thieves. 3 months later, another batch of Rebirth Realm elders would come over. So the Chun clan didn't lack experts now. Moreover, with these Rebirth Realm elders protecting the Chun clan, it imperceptibly helped the Chun clan deal with numerous difficulties. After all, in this current world, there were many people who had their hearts clouded with greed, and there were no lack of bandits and thieves as well. The Chun clan was thriving, its wealth growing every day, and it had undoubtedly become an extremely plump piece of meat in the eyes of these people, and all of them wanted to have a bite. With the presence of these Rebirth Realm cultivators and coupled with the name of the Wandering Cloud Sword sect, it had indirectly destroyed all these precarious factors before they occurred. In short, the current Chun clan was rising and strengthening with a shocking speed, and internal and external troubles wouldn't occur for an extremely long period of time. It was even to the extent that the Wandering Cloud Sword sect's supreme elder, Bei Heng, predicted that if the Chun clan grew according to its current momentum, then it wouldn't even need to use 100 years of time before it would be sufficient to be equal with the 6 great sects and 5 great clans of Dragon Lake City, and it would completely stand above the various other powers of the Southern Territory. On this day, the Chun clan was unusually bustling, and it could even be said to be the most bustling day in these past few days. The leaders of the various powers in Pine Mist City, some people with respectable statuses from outside Pine Mist City, the managers of the various trading companies in the Southern Territory, a few elders of the Wandering Cloud Sword sect, and the various demon cultivator leaders from the depths of the mountain range were all in groups of 2 to 5 and brought along precious gifts as they came to the Chun clan in throngs. The sky above Pine Mist City was covered by various streaks of light, flying magic treasures, and mounts early on at dawn, and the scene was extremely magnificent, grand, and bustling. The reason was extremely simple. The shocking news that Xianxia had obtained 100 successive victories in the Gold Lake meeting had already spread throughout the entire Southern Territory, whereas Xianxia's origins being Pine Mist City wasn't a secret anymore. So how could these cultivators, powers, and trading companies that had a relationship with the Chun clan not come visit and congratulate the Chun clan? Pine Mist Institution's Dean Ning Daofu and Redleaf Institution's Dean Yiqiu have arrived. These 2 seniors have specially gifted a 1,000-year-old green heart lotus and 9-twist blood ginseng. The various chief managers of the Misty Sea City's 100 Treasure Company, the Jadelight City's Fortune Store, and Myriad Cloud City's Treasure Gathering Pavilion have arrived. They've specially gifted a portion of dark steel composite metal, Jade Sky exquisite pills, and an Earth-rank magic treasure Crimson Cloud sword. Ah, Senior Xianjing, Senior Qing Qiu. Both of you have come as well. Quickly come in. Come in. Oh, why did the both of you bring presents? If the Patriarch finds out, then he'll surely scold me fiercely. All right, I'll do as you've said. I'll surely personally send this treasure to young Master Chunyu. Imp led all the servants to stand outside the vermilion-colored entrance since early in the morning to welcome guests. His smile was stiff, and he shouted to the point he sounded hoarse. Yet the happiness and pride in his heart grew greater and greater. As a member of the Chun clan, being able to receive such distinguished guests with high status was something that carried an extremely high sense of accomplishment. At this moment, the Chun clan estate was filled with guests and rows upon rows of feasts. The sounds of chatting and drinking wine could be heard everywhere, and the topic discussed the most was naturally Chun-Shi, the Chun clan main hall. Those that were able to enter the main hall naturally possessed statuses and identities that were the most eminent amongst everyone. Fei Lengzue sat in the main hall while entertaining these distinguished guests. Yet Chun Hao wasn't present. But even then, no one spoke ill of it or was displeased. After all, Fei Lengzue wasn't just Chun Hao's wife. She was also a rather renowned disciple of the Wandering Cloud Sword sect all those years ago, and coupled with her relationship with Chun-Shi, who amongst the people present would dare look down upon her? Sister-in-law, could it be that kid? Chun Hao has encountered something troubling? Why hasn't he come? In the end, someone was still unable to bear the curiosity in his heart. This person was naturally the old turtle king, Xianxia, and it was most suitable for him to ask this question. Fei Lingzue shook her head, and her expression revealed boundless happiness and sentimentality, causing it to be extremely complicated, and said, "He and Yuer have gone to the memorial hall. He said he wanted to tell grandfather about big brother Chun Shi." Everyone instantly went silent. Almost all of them knew of Chun Tianli and knew that it was this old man that brought up Chun Shi and Chun Hao by himself. At that time, the Chun clan had been annihilated and fell to utter poverty. Not only did the three of them live impoverished lives, they still had to suffer various ridicule and mocking, and it could be said to be an extremely difficult life. Presently, the Chun clan was rising and strengthening swiftly, and it was like the sun in the midday sky in the Southern Territory. Compared to before, it could indeed be said to be like the difference between the heavens and the earth, yet it was impossible to exchange it for Chun Tianli's life, and it was indeed something that caused others to sigh with emotion. At the Chun clan memorial hall, row after row of candles were lit permanently, and there were numerous memorial tablets spread out above. On these memorial tablets, the names of every single clansman that died when the Chun clan was annihilated all those years ago was inscribed. Chun Hao knelt on a cushion as he looked at the memorial tablet at the center and muttered, "Grandfather, you asked brother to earn money and support the family, but didn't let him learn anything, as you said his natural talent was inferior to me. Relying on our family's wealth, it was only possible to provide for a single person to cultivate wholeheartedly. So, you asked him to give up everything and bear the heavy burden of maintaining our family's livelihood. But now, not only has my brother obtained the first in the Hidden Dragon rankings, he even obtained 100 successive victories in the Gold Lake meeting and has become the one and only cultivator from our Southern Territory to obtain this honor. He shocked the world with this deed, and his name is known far and wide. You were mistaken all those years ago. My brother never resented your decision from all those years ago, as he knew your heart ached extremely when you made that decision. I finally understand this feeling now. My brother has gone alone to wander outside while bearing the hatred of our Chun clan by himself, and he has encountered countless dangers to his life, causing my heart to ache extremely as well. All these things ought to be borne by me, right? Father, you're crying. Didn't you say a man doesn't shed tears easily?" Little Chun Yu knelt silently at the side, and he stretched out his small hand to help wipe the tears of Chun Hao's face when he saw his father's face was covered in tears. Chun Hao took a deep breath and rubbed little Chun Yu's head as he said, "Yuer, father owes your uncle too much in this lifetime. You have to properly repay your uncle as well once you grow up, all right?" "Okay. Uncle is the best to Yuer, so I'll surely repay him throughout my lifetime." Little Chun Yu nodded his head fiercely, and then he frowned and asked, "Father, how should Yuer repay uncle?" Chun Hao smiled and looked at Chun Tianli's memorial tablet as he said, "It's extremely simple. Make our Chun clan flourish and be eternal." Eternal. Little Chun Yu was still young and obviously didn't understand what this meant. Right, eternal. Even if the heavens and earth collapse, natural disasters strike ceaselessly, a myriad of enemies invade, or under the corrosion of time, our Chun clan isn't allowed to fall. Chun Hao spoke word by word. Little Chun Yu stared at his father's eyes as he said seriously, "Father, Yuer has committed it to heart. Uncle had once told Yuer that actions always speak louder than words, so watch Yuer actions. Let's go. Today is a day of celebration for your uncle. Let's go see those uncles of yours." Chun Hao nodded and stood up before holding Chun Yu's hand, and he turned around to leave the memorial hall. "Yay! Fantastic! I'll be able to obtain many fun things again." Little Chun Yu cried out loudly with excitement, and then he covered his mouth with his hand and said with an apologetic expression, "Father, am I too playful? Play to your heart's content today, but you must cultivate properly in the future. Do you still remember what I told you?" Chun Hao smiled. "I do. All those years ago, Uncle cultivated diligently at all times, and that's why he was able to become more formidable than others. Yuer should be like Uncle and make use of every minute of time to cultivate so that I can keep up with Uncle." Little Chun Yu answered with a clear voice. Chun Hao nodded, yet he sighed in his heart. "Yuer, don't blame father for forcing you. You have to inherit the Chun clan in the future, and you're unlike other children that can have a carefree childhood. The sea of clouds rose in the boundless sky. At this moment, there were two figures, young and old, that were walking slowly with fluttering clothes amongst the clouds, and they seemed like gods. You didn't let me ride the 9-dragon treasured carriage, nor did you bring me along to move through space, and you forced me to fly in this desolate sky. You're really free to the point of having nothing to do. Young Master Zhou muttered resentfully. Little brat, didn't I just take you from the Gold Lake meeting? What are you complaining endlessly for? I did it for your own good. Zhou Xiantong grunted coldly. Young Master Zhou frowned as he said, What exactly has happened? Weren't you always in closed-door cultivation? Yet you come out so anxiously to take a stroll. A stroll? Zhou Xiantong was stunned, and then he slapped young Master Zhou on the head before berating. I couldn't sit idly by any longer. Do you know how many disciples of old freaks have set their sights on the all-star meeting? Even the slovenly old Taoist couldn't sit idly by, and he captured an ancient fiend god with the intention of using the trace of ancient fiend god blood essence to clean the impurities within the body of his disciple, Zhao Qinghe, and increase his disciple's strength so that Zhao Qinghe would be able to compete for the top 10 in the all-star meeting. Tell me, would I not be anxious? Using the blood essence of an ancient fiend god to increase his strength? Young Master Zhou was shocked greatly and said, What extravagance! Could it be that he thinks Zhao Qinghe wouldn't be able to enter the top 10 of the all-star meeting with his strength? Zhou Xiantong grunted. Isn't this because the disciples of some old fellows have suddenly made an appearance and disrupted the plans of everyone? Didn't you see even Huangfu Taiwu couldn't sit idly by and hastily took his disciple away? He probably knows about this matter as well and plans to seize this 1 year of time to properly increase the strength of his disciple. Young Master Zhou said with a frown. There's surely a reason, right? The dragon transformation pool that has been sealed for countless years is about to be opened. When he spoke the words dragon transformation pool, Zhou Xuantong's expression became solemn, and his eyes revealed a rare trace of scorching hot yearning. Dragon transformation pool. Young Master Zhou's eyes squinted as he instantly understood everything, and the trace of displeasure in his heart vanished completely. After staying quiet for a long time, he asked, Where are you taking me? I'm naturally taking you to a good place to increase your strength. Zhou Xiantong patted young Master Zhou's shoulder and said, There's no need to be too pressured. So long as you cultivate properly during this next year, you have the chance to be ranked in the top 10 of the all-star meeting. I will. Young Master Zhou nodded, and his expression was filled with resolution. Oh, I forgot to ask you something. Why did you give the Dragon Soul Jade pendant to Chun Shi? Zhou Xiantong asked suddenly. Young Master Zhou shrugged as he said, It's nothing. I was just handing over the wager to a lost bet. Zhou Xiantong seemed to heave a sigh of relief in his heart as he nodded. That's good. Even though the Dragon Soul Jade pendant is valuable, it's nothing to our Zhou clan, so it doesn't matter. Young Master Zhou asked doubtfully, What exactly do you want to say? It's nothing. I just obtained the information that this kid will probably be unable to arrive at Silken City, and perhaps he'll lose his life. Zhou Xiantong replied casually. Young Master Zhou said abruptly, Why? Could it be that someone wants to deal with him? It isn't someone, but many people. Zhou Xiantong said with a frown, This matter isn't related to you, so you better not involve yourself. After all, it's a Black Sun ambush, and it will be extremely troublesome if our Zhou clan was involved in it. Black Sun ambush? Young Master Zhou was shocked with terror, and then he went silent. The warlord's estate. Huangfu Taiwu sat high up at the center seat, and his entire body emitted a dazzling and resplendent aura that shone brilliantly. When looked at from afar, he was like a dazzling sun whose power covered the sky. Master, don't worry. Disciple will surely cultivate properly in the Battle Soul Blood Cavern and obtain a seat in the top 10 in the Gold Lake meeting. Only in this way would I not let you down. Su Chan knelt on the ground and spoke resolutely. Good. The Battle Soul Blood Cavern has a total of 18 levels. So long as you're able to enter the 15th level, then your strength will be more or less sufficient to go against the others. Huangfu Taiwu spoke with a voice that was like a thunderclap, and it rumbled within the audience hall. Besides that, you don't have to vex because of Chun Shi and just cultivate wholeheartedly. If I'm not wrong, he'll surely be killed in a few days. Su Chan was shocked in his heart and asked, Master, could it be that you're going to make a move personally? Huangfu Taiwu shook his head. It isn't me. You've probably heard of the Black Sun ambush, right? Presently, this trap has been set up for Chun Shi by a group of people. The Black Sun ambush? How ruthless! This damnable bastard Chun Shi has actually offended so many people and sown such great enmity. It has really exceeded my expectations. Su Chan's heart shook. How could he possibly have not heard of the Black Sun ambush? Azure County City, within a room in an inn. Chun Shi sat cross-legged on the bed and was meditating in cultivation. Beside him lay 3 violet gold-colored large gourds that were filled with 500 kilograms of baleful divine water. On the other side lay a blood-colored jade pendant, which was the Dragon Soul Jade Pendant. He'd left the venue of the battle after obtaining 100 successive victories in the Gold Lake meeting, and he returned to the inn with the intention of relying on the assistance of the baleful divine water and the Dragon Soul and Blood Essence in the Dragon Soul Jade Pendant to charge into the Golden Core realm in body refinement in one go. On one hand, the reason he was acting so urgently was because his body refinement cultivation had already touched the border of the Golden Core realm, and on the other hand, it was because a feeling of danger existed faintly in his heart. After he heard the warning of the Zhou clan's ancestor during the Gold Lake meeting 3 days ago, he'd felt that something was slightly amiss. An earthly immortal realm expert with unfathomable strength had advised him without reason or rhyme that he shouldn't participate in the all-star meeting if he felt his strength was insufficient. This matter was truly too unusual. It was precisely from that day onward that an inexplicable trace of a feeling of danger appeared frequently within his heart. Even though he was unable to deduce the reason, he didn't dare let his guard down. So he decided to properly increase his strength to defend himself against any mishaps. After a long time, Chun Shi woke up from his meditation. He felt his body and mind had attained a calm, clear, and extremely pure state, and he decided right away to start charging to the Golden Core realm in body refinement. So long as he attained this realm of cultivation, then might of his divine abilities Starsky Wings and Grand Astral Palm would obtain an obvious increase, and when used as a trump card, they would surely be able to give rise to surprising effects. Moreover, after his body refinement cultivation advanced into the Golden Core realm, the ability of recovery of his body would obtain a tremendous increase. So long as his heart and head weren't injured, then he could rely on his vital blood that was boiling like lava to instantly recover to his previous state, and this was undoubtedly a superb ability to preserve his life. Knock! 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 Right when Chun Shi intended to cultivate, a wave of knocking resounded out. Chun Shi's divine sense stretched out of his room, and when he saw clearly who the person who arrived was, he couldn't help but be stunned. Why has she come? The person outside the door was Zhen Luqing. She seemed to have encountered some sort of difficult problem, causing her black brows to be knit tightly, and her beautiful face had an extremely complicated expression that contained worry, astonishment, and frustration. After he instructed Mu Kuei to open the door, Chun Shi walked out from his room and asked with surprise, "Could it be that Miss Zhen has something urgent to discuss?" Zhen Luqing did indeed have something urgent to discuss, and she didn't conceal it and said, "I obtained information earlier that someone has set up a Black Sun ambush that's directed at you. In other words, your current situation has already become extremely precarious." Black Sun ambush? Chun Shi's brows rose up, and he asked with a perplexed expression. Zhen Luqing discerned with a single glance that Chun Shi didn't know how serious the Black Sun ambush was, and she explained right away. This is an assassination directed at a cultivator, and it's issued by a power called the Black Sun Pavilion. The Black Sun Pavilion specializes in assassinations, and its forces don't cover just the Darchu dynasty. Supposedly, the forces of the Black Sun Pavilion are even spread out in the other dynasties, causing it to be extremely terrifying. Even the Darchu dynasty's imperial family is helpless against it. Moreover, so long as one is able to pay the price, the Black Sun Pavilion will arrange an assassination, and every single assassination has never failed, causing it to be terrifying to the extreme. Xianxia felt apprehensive in his heart as he finally understood why the Zhou clan's ancestor would speak those words. He probably knew of this as well, so he'd warned me because of young Master Zhou. Now that I think of it, this power called the Black Sun Pavilion is terrifying indeed. It covers a few dynasties and is simply like an uncrowned king that exists in the shadows. Being targeted by a power like this is indeed a cause for fear. But Xianxia was extremely bewildered as well. Who have I offended now? And why did they entrust the Black Sun Pavilion with carrying out a Black Sun ambush at me? It was an ambush and not a pursuit, and just the name of it gave one much food for thought. Miss Zhan, do you know who wants to go against me? Xianxia realized how serious the situation was, and he asked with a frown. Zhen Luqing stared fixedly at Xianxia's eyes as she said, "Could it be that you didn't guess anything?" Xianxia was stunned, and then his eyes went cold as he asked, "Could it be that powers behind Huangfu Chongming, Lin Moshuan, and Xiao Linger? Wait, I ought to have to add on the powers behind Lu Fengqi, Manhong, Pei Zhong, Xuechen, and the others." Zhen Luqing stayed silent, and she obviously approved tacitly. Xianxia took a deep breath and said with cupped fists, "Thank you for warning me, Miss Zhan. I'll remember this favor and will surely repay it tenfold in the future." Zhen Luqing shook her head and said, "You should first consider how you ought to deal with the situation before you. What else can I do? The enemy is in hiding while I'm out in the open. I can only destroy anything that stands in my way," said Xianxia with a smile. After finding out the reason behind the matter, he instead became composed. But what he said was the truth as well. He could only passively resist the situation before him for now. Xianxia. Right at this moment, Yiqing had actually came to this inn and swiftly charged into the room, and when she saw Zhen Luqing was here as well, she knew instantly that she was probably a step too slow. Yiqing had come this time for the sake of telling Xianxia about the Black Sun ambush as well. But compared to Zhen Luqing, she obviously possessed more information. After all, she was from the treasure-gathering pavilion, whereas the treasure-gathering pavilion itself possessed the combined function of gathering information. This ambush will occur between the Azure County and Silken City. In other words, so long as you go to Silken City, you will encounter the assassination of the Black Sun ambush. Moreover, the assassins deployed this time are all at the Golden Core realm, yet there isn't a single expert above the Golden Core realm that's participating in it. But the strengths of these assassins can't be underestimated, as they're all Golden Core realm experts that have lived for a few hundreds of years. If it's in terms of strength and experiences, then they're far from something young Golden Core realm cultivators can compare to. When Yiqing spoke up to hear, a trace of a strange expression suffused her face as she said slowly, "Moreover, according to my knowledge, the news about the assassination this time wasn't kept secret, and the other party obviously wants you to know about it." Xianxia said with surprise, "They want me to know about it?" Yiqing nodded and said, "Before I came, I was instructed by someone to tell you something." "Tell me something? What?" Xianxia didn't ask who instructed her as he already knew the true mastermind behind the scenes, so asking all this was meaningless. The person said that if you're able to survive the ambush this time, then the enmity between each other will be written off. Yiqing spoke word by word, and she seemed to be imitating the tone that person spoke with. Written off. A trace of ridicule suffused the corners of Xianxia's mouth. They clearly know that there's no record of failure in the Black Sun Pavilion's assassinations, yet still spoke like this. Do they think highly of me? Or are they mocking me? Zhen Luqing said abruptly. Ambush? In my opinion, they've obviously left you a way out, and that is to not go to Silken City. In this way, there could be no ambush, and you'll be able to preserve your life. Xianxia didn't even think before replying resolutely. Impossible. I'll go to Silken City to participate in the All-Star meeting no matter what,